Alrighty. Welcome to the show that never ends. I am one of your hosts of the XB2 podcast, the one, the only, Randall419, the man with the million. And as always, do we have a sober or inebriated Jez Corden of Wendell Central, because he is back at home in the UK visiting family and he posted things to drinks. So what Jez Corden are we getting today for this show, I wonder?
I am slightly inebriated,
Slightly.
but it's fine.
Slightly. What were you having to drink?
Right what? Had ginger beer and then cider, and then we did like 6 shots each of they were called Christmas Cinnamon Swirl Baileys, but it was just basically Baileys with spiced rum mixed into a shot glass, and then there's some whiskey and there was some rum on the go. So, but we're okay. We're not drunk, really.
Mm-hmm.
We're fine.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
We're good. And I'm drinking Monster Energy drink to get it from my system quick.
Joe Repko says, is Jez ever truly sober? That is the question. Tim says Tipsy Jez is the best Jez. So
yeah, we're not wasted. We're fine.
I actually kind of thought
we've got a lot to talk about.
I actually kind of thought, since you're back in the UK and you were visiting family, I was like, is he and you were like, we're either gonna have to do the show 2 hours later on Friday, which, sorry for that, but it is the holidays after all. You were like, we're gonna have to do either 2 hours later on Friday, or we're gonna have to do the show on Monday. And I was like, well, Iron Lords isn't on Sunday anymore. The Iron Lords have hung up Iron Lords podcast for their year. We could have done it Sunday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Iron Lords, they're
taking a break.
They're taking all the rest of the year off, right? And there's some other podcasts that are doing that. But there's no time off for the XB2. You know what I mean?
Oh, we're not doing time off.
I don't think so, unless we take off like the last episode of the year. But I doubtful.
No, yeah. I mean, what? Yeah, why? I mean, yeah, we'll rock it all over Christmas with you guys because we have no life.
Yeah. Plus, it's just me and Jez. So it's kind of like, all right. I sort of figured possibly when I saw you post the pictures of those drinks, I was like, I'm gonna get a message saying that he can't do the show today, and then we'll just have to move it till Monday. But no, he showed up, and I was like, all right, he's here, and we do have quite a bit to talk about. Although Jez did say to me before we started the show, he's like, he looked at the title of the podcast, he's like, man, what'd you say? Why are we talking?
I said, why are we talking about PlayStation? It's not an Xbox game.
Yeah, you're like, why are we talking about Last of Us? It's not an Xbox game. And I was like, well, I mean, it is like the big news of the week, and it's we talk about like Sony's push for live service versus Xboxes, and kind of contrast and compare the reactions to the cancellation of Scalebound to the cancellation of Last of Us Factions and stuff. It's not strictly You
mentioned to me like Scalebound is trending again.
On Twitter, yes.
Like, why? I was like, why is this trending again? And then it's trending in relation to Last of Us Faction. So I suppose sometimes when PlayStation makes a big move like this, it does probably give Xbox, there is some impact on Xbox and vice versa, right? So
because it makes Xbox's strategy look ever more better with their live service stuff. Like, how can Xbox Studios do all these live service games, but the greatest studio on earth, as some of their fans call it, can't, and they failed completely at doing so. So, yeah, Jez was like, "Why are we?" I'm like, because it's what the people want. It's hot news, People want to hear hot takes. So,
and clicks in chat says Scalebound mentioned before we even started. Yeah, like
exactly.
God damn,
Scalebound's trending on Twitter. Already. Who would have thought so? And it's trending because something PlayStation did. So of course we're gonna have to talk about it. There's a lot of stuff here to talk about. A lot of things happened. You would think, the industry's on holiday, that there wouldn't be that much stuff, but a lot of things did happen. And you know what? I kind of like this. I don't know if you saw it recently, but IGN and GameSpot actually kind of went to the people who won the Game Awards and actually let them give their speeches they would have given at the Game Awards if Jeff Keighley, wasn't cutting people for time and giving away the awards. What do you think of that? As like a response.
I thought that was very, very clever piece they did. There was a bunch of devs and a bunch of outlets that went and got comments from developers who were cut off, or in some cases who weren't even allowed to speak, because their award was just skipped over.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to change format next year. Like usually so? Jeff Keighley's resistant to feedback, I kind of feel like, but this year we had the security guards, and he even acknowledged that there were some issues with the time allocation. So I do think they'll change the format a little bit next year, and good. They should change the format a bit, but we'll see.
I mean, the numbers are back, and it was the most viewed Game Awards ever. So
yeah, no doubt. It's going to grow every year until more and more people discover it. We were talking about it in the pub earlier.
Oh, you were talking about it in the pub.
Yeah, like friends and family watched it and stuff.
Really? Your friends and family watched it, huh?
That's not necessarily super engaged with the gaming news and media and stuff, but they watched the Game Awards, and they're aware of talking about Grand Theft Auto 6. People excited for that as well.
I mean, who isn't?
Even my parents were talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 because it was all over the news in Britain.
Yeah, they're probably talking about how it needs to be banned, right, for kids and stuff.
Well, it's
it's woke.
Rockstar North Scottish, right? So there's a big GTA following in Britain, like absurdly big. So that's why it was on the news here as well. But I don't know. It's all fun and games,
Indeed it is. But as you guys come in, you do us a big favor and hit the like button if you haven't already. Please subscribe to the channel if you also haven't done so already. And we're going to get started. So we're going to do, obviously, the housekeeping stuff. Patreon. I think some of you know that we did just drop an episode of Xbox 2+1 this past Tuesday with Gene Park of the Washington Post. And that was a lot of fun. Awesome. That was a lot of fun. Talking to Gene, gave us like 2 hours of his time, a little bit over 2 hours of his time, actually. And he had some interesting quotes, Jez. He had some takes that would set Twitter on fire if we were to, clip some stuff. Very interesting takes on the Xbox tax.
Yes. Yes, he did.
Yeah. Spoiler, Gene Park says there's 100% an Xbox tax. So go listen to the episode to find out in what context he's talking about that. And Gene Park also said, now this isn't me, this is Gene Park. We didn't put words in his mouth. He said that Xbox looks like they have a better future than PlayStation. Man, they're going to hurt him for that one. They're going to hurt him for that one. So go check that out if you want. It's up on Patreon, exclusive for right now. It'll be available for everybody sometime next week, and we're trying to line up some guests for 2024. We're going to try to go big 2024, even camera big, because right now the
big
plan.
And bold.
I told Jez about like when we're gonna go on camera for the first time for Xbox 2, so we're gonna keep that a surprise. But it is soon, because I've started buying some of the things I need, and it is coming. Just hold your horses. Just wait a little bit, But it'll be here, and then once we do it, you guys can all be like, go back to little avatars, and we will do that. So yes. So check out the Gene Park thing with patreon.com/XB2. But we also have a sponsor for this episode, right, Jez?
We do indeed, guys. And this week's sponsor is the wonderful HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. So, guys, with HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Did you know HelloFresh does more than just dinners? From easy breakfast to start your morning off, right to 10-minute lunches or satisfying snacks, both adults and kids will adore. HelloFresh has tasty choices for every mealtime occasion. And the best part, no grocery trips required. HelloFresh has over 45 recipes and more than 100 seasonal add-on items to choose from every week. So it's easier than ever to find something everyone will enjoy. Go to HelloFresh.com.
I mean, it's true. I mean, before you get into the call to action.
Okay.
You know,
Rand is an avid fan of HelloFresh.
I'm the one who actually uses HelloFresh. You know, because we use the products that you know, when they come to us and stuff. And you know, the thing that is most important to me is how something tastes. As you guys know, I'm bland Al4. So I'm very picky when it comes to food. And to me, it has to taste good, first and foremost, and their food does. You know, and there's also like the idea of like, hey, you can save money by subscribing to this instead of going out to the store, buying all the ingredients you need. Like, you don't have to do that. They ship it right to your door. You make it, you know, if you want to make something on Monday, you can make something Monday. If you don't, you don't. But the most important thing is the food actually tastes good. And they have a lot of different selections if you're on a diet or if you just want like, you know, meat only or whatever. So there's a lot of things you can choose from. You know, I'm struggling with my diet right now. You know, I do good when I'm on HelloFresh and I'm on other stuff, but then, you know, there's always those moments of like, oh man, I'm watching a TV show, I want to order something. But I like HelloFresh quite a bit because it tastes good and it's like delivered right to your door. I don't really like going out to the grocery store to buy ingredients, and you can save money that way. But yeah, HelloFresh, thank you for sponsoring the episode. And Jez, you got to read the call to action.
The call to action. Go to HelloFresh.com/Xbox2Free. That's XBOXTWOFREE and use code Xbox2Free for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/Xbox2Free with code Xbox2Free. XBOXTWOFREE.
Yep.
And the link's in the description as well. So thanks everybody for considering HelloFresh, and it supports the channel. And thanks to HelloFresh for supporting the channel as well.
Yeah, thank you. Check out the link in the description to see if HelloFresh is for you. But we also have the wonderful people at Patreon.com who support the show. We have the shout-out tier, among many others, including the question tier, which we'll be getting to questions at the end of this episode. We have, I don't know how to say this, Thuragus, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, Peter B, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trade, The Grandest a Bit, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Makazilla, Randall Thor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Fantasticals, Halo is the Goat, Katrox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, Sean Kramer, PB Broking, Ace Madison, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropy, Prof JJJ, Ghostface Killer, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on Patreon. Yeah. I'm really interested in seeing what people think of the Gene Park interview, because I thought that was well done. He even went on a rant a little bit about the Game Awards.
He went on a few rants.
Yeah, he went on a few rants.
Gene Park's awesome, man. He's like no filter.
Yeah,
kind of like no filter, right?
It definitely is.
Yeah, I definitely love to talk to Gene again.
I mean, he wasn't even that like pumped about the Blade announcement because he doesn't really like Arkane that much, and I was like, "What are you talking about, Gene?" You know?
Yeah, it kind of went against the grain on Deathloop because most of the media, they were just all over Deathloop. But I was kind of with Gene. Like, I'm not a huge Deathloop fan, honestly.
It's weird.
I didn't like the gameplay loop in Deathloop.
It's weird because the more I talk to people, the more people tell me that they didn't like Deathloop. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, yeah, but it got an 88 on Metacritic. Who reviewed it then if all these reviewers are telling me they didn't like it? You know what I mean?
Oh.
It's like, how did it get so hot?
I didn't review it.
I know you didn't review it, and I don't know if Gene did or not, but it was one of the best reviewed games of 2021. But like when you talk to people, they're just like, yeah, this game was just mediocre. It's like, okay, well, is there a disconnect between... I mean, I know sometimes there is a disconnect between critical reviewers and fans. You see it all the time.
I appreciated what it was trying to do. I thought some aspects of its design were cool, and also like the world was really detailed, and it had all those kind of the arcane stuff that Arcane Leon's known for with the immersive sim elements. Liked all that stuff. I just didn't like having to constantly start over again.
See,
Personally.
I didn't think that was that bad because they give you enough of the I forget what they're called, but the crystals or whatever to essentially keep the weapons and the powers that you get from that run.
No, not that bit. Just just the same world, start the same point. It felt like I wasn't moving forward. I can't explain it. Whereas like in something like Dishonored, you're constantly going to new areas, new buildings, new stuff to do. Whereas this one felt like kind of like an open world almost. I mean, well, it is an open world, but
it's a small open world, right? Because you have you have 4 maps at 4 different time frames, right? Like morning, afternoon, day, and night. Yeah. And I guess someone's like, oh well, every time you do morning on this map, all the enemies are in the same exact place. So maybe it can come. I don't know. It was like a puzzle box, like how to unfold and figure out how am I going to kill all these enemies when they're completely spread out on the map. And that was really enjoyable for me to try to figure out how to basically go through and set it up that way. Right.
I mean, maybe I'll give it another chance sometime.
See, the thing, you don't have to say that because we all know the Xbox 2 community knows you ain't getting a second chance. You didn't even beat Persona. You're not playing it again. Next year. Okay.
Next year I might have a lot more free time for playing stuff.
So 2024, Jez is going to beat. You have the entire year to beat Deathloop, and you have the entire year to beat Persona 5. I'll give you the entire year to beat those 2 games. From January 1st to December 31st, you have an entire year to beat those 2 games. And if you don't, you ready for your penalty?
Okay. What's the penalty?
You can't play World of Warcraft for a year. So if you don't beat those 2 games in 2024, you can't play World of Warcraft for the entirety of 2025.
All right, I'll do it.
No, you won't. You know, come on.
We'll do it.
I'm trying to help you beat your games.
Oh well, we'll do it.
I mean, you probably.
I did play quite a lot of games this year. I just didn't finish many. But yeah, I don't know. We'll do it. Well, okay. I don't know. It depends what my new job title ends up being in January. Because we're essentially having a bit of a reorg in January.
Okay.
And I might be in a position where I get a little bit more free time, hopefully. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Or more free time to work on actual gaming content, I suppose I should say. Because right now, like a lot of my time, I've thrown it towards sort of shorter things that don't require a game research. So I haven't written much about actual gaming this year. So maybe next year I could do a bit more game research, game reviews, and use that as an excuse to actually play some games. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, well, Xbox surprised everybody this year by releasing their year in stats.
Yes.
Which they haven't done in recent years.
No, they haven't.
Allowing
basically that they came back.
Yeah, basically letting true achievements do it all. I'm sure Microsoft was like, we don't need some intern that we're not paying, but we don't need to pay somebody, or we could have this intern who's doing this, have them do something else. Yeah, intern. True Achievements is going to do their year in review anyways. Why are we going to spend any money on this when they can do it? But even though, like, literally every platform does it now. Spotify does it with their Spotify Wrapped. YouTube does it with their YouTube year in review. Twitch does it with stats for both streamers and viewers. PlayStation does it. Even Nintendo. Even old, antiquated Nintendo does it. And I sort of feel that makes Microsoft look bad, right?
It does a little bit, doesn't it?
It does, right? That everybody else is doing it and they don't. I also probably think I think people internally wanted it done, like employees and stuff, and they probably pushed for it. So this year, they brought it back. So I figured, let's just go over our stats because, I always give shit to Special Nick of Xbox Era for basically being a Nintendo fan and hosting an Xbox podcast, It's a little joke, but there's some truth to it. You know, all good jokes are kind of based in truth in some way, right? And I think his most played game was Rocket League. That's what he loves to play, and he spends all this money on Fortnite and stuff. But little did I know that my own Xbox co-host, Jez Corden, only played 5 hours on Xbox. I know he played 2 games.
Right.
I mean that's what your stats
right.
said. Was that not what your stats said from Xbox?
That is what my stats said. However,
wow.
Someone from Xbox reached out to me and said, "There's an error on your account. Can you please help us fix it?" So there was a bunch of people who had issues with their stats, me included, and thanks to me, I got everyone's stats fixed.
So what
you can thank me for that.
So what are your real statistics?
I think it was 620 hours played, something like that.
Okay.
Which isn't, as much as you.
I mean, I'm not that far ahead of you.
But I play a lot on PC, so I didn't have any of my Diablo hours on PC.
Or World of Warcraft hours.
Oh, my World of Warcraft hours. Well, my Baldur's Gate hours, actually. I play Baldur's Gate mostly on PC too. So yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy with it. I was surprised that my top games, actually, because Diablo was my top game on by a mile on Xbox. But I was expecting my second top game to be Cyberpunk because I played that a lot this year. But my second top game was Starfield, which was pretty amazing. But I suppose I did review it, so
yeah. I mean, mine from Xbox was basically 800 hours, 51 games played, 40,000 gamer score. Thank you very much. 1,480 achievements. My biggest month was September, where I think I played Starfield, which was my number one game. Starfield was my number one game. I had over 100 hours in it. Number 2 was Hogwarts Legacy. And number 3 was Resident Evil 4. So, I know you always say that because I also beat like 50 games. Like, I also really, like, anything I really start, I try to beat. There's only a couple games that I started that I just couldn't finish or didn't want to finish because they were so bad. But
which games were those?
Redfall was one. Redfall was one.
See, I finished Redfall.
I didn't. I couldn't finish Redfall because it was so awful.
I actually finished Redfall. It's one of the only games I finished this year. Was I reviewing it? I can't remember. I think I was reviewing it, yeah.
So Redfall was one of the games I didn't finish. But I also beat some games on PlayStation, like Final Fantasy 16, Spider-Man 2, and Oxenfree 2 and stuff. So, because, yeah, I mean, I don't really play any multiplayer games. I don't play any live service stuff, so I don't really play, like, I'm not in there playing Destiny 2, racking up hours played. I usually play my game, and I'm in and I'm out. I don't really waste time when it comes to game. I'm efficient when it comes to this stuff, is what I'm saying. I'm in, I do what I need to do, I beat the game, and then I'm done. Like Diablo, roll credits, beat the story, deleted it immediately.
Will you come back for the expansion, though? The story expansion?
Maybe. We'll see.
Because it'll be the next part, like with Mephisto and stuff like that. Because the game kind of ends on a cliffhanger a little bit.
And you always give me crap because you always say, "Oh, I play more than you," but do I though? Because you look at your Xbox stats and then plus your stats and the other stuff, you might actually play more than me. But
I think I actually do play more.
Yeah, but the thing is, I beat all the games though.
Yeah, the reason I don't beat games is because I think like when I play for fun, recreationally, I'm so like burned out with work. I don't want to play a game like Alan Wake or something where I have to sort of pay too much attention. Recently, anyway, my gaming habits changed. So it's like I don't want to play something like Alan Wake where I have to like pay attention and I'm like trying to, there's a mystery going on. I gotta remember characters and stuff like that. I'm just so tired that I just want to kill monsters, man. I just want to.
Kill monsters in Alan Wake.
Yeah, but I don't like Diablo. I don't have to pay any attention. I'm
Yeah,
playing it
you
right
just
now.
all you got to do in Diablo is click, 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 click. It's such amazing gameplay. Click, 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 click.
Yeah, but I don't have to think, man. I don't have to
Uh-huh.
use my brain. I like play Warcraft. I don't have to use my brain. It's just I don't have to think. I don't have to analyze a story or pay too much attention. I could like do a podcast or watch a movie or something at the same time while spamming blood lances into something. You know, I think it's like that's how my habits have changed since I've become so busy. But I'm hoping that from next year, like I'm hoping that mentally I can check out a little bit more and just have some actual sort of free time to sort of just kind of relax, sort of, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's why a lot of people like often get into these service kind of games because they don't want to have to think because they're either so like overwrought with school or work or college, university or whatever it is, and I think games like Genshin Impact and Fortnite and stuff, it's just they don't ask anything of you, and I think like you know, there's a I want to believe there's a place for both styles of game forever. And I think Baldur's Gate really proved that this summer, where it's like, yeah, there's still a market for that sort of really great story, which really sucks you in, and really does, you know, grab your attention, you know. So, yeah, we're gonna be talking a little bit about the state of the industry and service games and all that kind of stuff in a little bit when we talk about Last of Us factions, I guess. Suppose.
Yeah. But I like the fact that Xbox is doing their stats again. I don't know why they stopped in the first place. But yes. Thank you for doing them again. Super chats we have here. We got Supernova saying Konnichiwa, Phil Dessous. I mean, Avowed is in good hands. Clover at Reset Era.
Can you do that again?
Konnichiwa, Phil Dessous.
Can you say it like an anime girl?
Konnichiwa, Phil Dessous. I don't know. Is that how you say? Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you got to follow it up with an uwu. Nah,
an uwu. He says, I mean, is Avowed in good hands? Cloberl at Reset Era. He thinks Avowed it will not be at the next developer direct. I mean, it might not be. It could be. It might not be. I don't know.
We're all assuming there's a developer direct in January or February or something like that. I haven't heard anything about one. Personally, I mean, there might be one, but I haven't heard personally. But if there is one, maybe he's right. You know, I suppose like I think a lot of Xbox's current slate. I think a lot of the devs are probably like, how can we make this as good as it possibly be? And I think like with single player games, the bar has been raised so much recently. You know, when you're looking at stuff like, you know, people want Xbox games to be at least as good as PlayStation for one thing, and then Microsoft's kind of got to prove itself after, you know, Redfall again, which I get is not a single player game, but there's kind of like there probably is some kind of impetus from Microsoft to be like, we've really got to make sure we raise the quality bar here. And I remember when Avowed was, you know, in the trailer, some people were, you know, sort of talking down to the art style a little bit, you know, fairly or unfairly. I didn't have an issue with it. It kind of looked like Outer Worlds, which I told everyone that's what it was going to be like, you know. They're, you know, like similar to the Outer Worlds, but maybe they're like, we can do more with this, you know. But yeah, we'll see. I know it's going to play well either way. It looks awesome.
You know it's going to play well, huh?
Well, I've heard good things, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
you never know for sure.
They might have more games set up that are coming out earlier than Avowed that they would want to do developer direct for. You know, and maybe
Towerborn is probably before that, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine Towerborn and Hellblade is before that, and Microsoft Flight Sim, and maybe, you know, maybe there's some other stuff, right? So maybe Avowed doesn't make it in, and, you know, because Starfield didn't make it in for the last year's developer direct because they had a separate one. I'm not saying they'll have a separate one for Avowed, but, you know, maybe Avowed doesn't even make this year. Or next year. Maybe Avowed gets delayed to 2025. You know, maybe it's just, I mean, who knows?
I'm completely fine with any delay if it leads to a better game. If it leads to, because I really do think the bar's been raised this year. Like, you look at Baldur's Gate, you look at Alan Wake, like the bar's been raised, man. And then you've got a GTA, in the background. And if you're launching anywhere near a GTA launch window, you kind of need to have a minimum level of quality, I think.
Yeah, God forbid any game launching around GTA 6. We hardly knew ye, because nobody else will care. It's going to be interesting to see how developers tried to tiptoe around Grand Theft Auto and how they date their games, not knowing. Like, okay, right now we know it's in 2025, so I'm sure there's some developers that are like, like, when in 2025? Like, are we going to... Are they going to announce it for spring but delay it to fall? But we're planning on launching on fall. Should we consider moving up? Because if you're launching around Grand Theft Auto 6, good luck. Good luck. Even if you're another big AAA game. Because all the energy and all the air are going to be sucked out of the room, and there's going to be none left for you, right? And you even like... you could make the case, kind of an example of with Alan Wake 2 recently, where Alan Wake 2, at least according to MPD or whatever, it doesn't seem like it sold particularly well. I think it was like 850,000 units or something.
I mean,
it was like the rumored
Surely we kind of... I did not expect Alan Wake to
Well, no,
sell
neither
that
did
well.
I.
It's a horror game, but more importantly, it's exclusive to the Epic Games Store.
Which hurts.
If you look at... Which hurts a lot. Like, if you look at every single tweet they put out, it's like, when you're going to put it on Steam? When you're going to...
Well, not only that, there's no physical versions. But
there's no retail version yet.
But I was kind of saying, like, it also released at the end of October. A lot of the other bigger games already came out, and you had Call of Duty looming. So I feel like people had already allocated their money to other things. Like, Spider-Man 2 had just come out the week before, and Super Mario Wonder had come out, and there was all these other games, and Alan Wake is a cult hit. It's a cult hit of a game that didn't sell well in the first place 13 years ago, right? And then now it's like, we're bringing it back, but we're going to keep it Epic Games exclusive, so not on Steam, so nobody on PC is going to buy it. And when there's no physical versions, so the physical bros out there are going to make a stand by not buying it, right? And it's like, yeah, but to me it was more about, like, you launch around all these other games that cost a lot of money, and sometimes you just don't have enough money to buy Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake 2 or any sort of combination of things. And I think that'll even go... that'll be even more apparent and exaggerated when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. Because not only will be people spending hundreds of dollars on Grand Theft Auto, whether they pay for it in early access, they're also then going to be spending shark cards on buying stuff for the online, which means they won't have other money to buy things. And then they won't have any time to play any other things because they'll be busy playing Grand Theft Auto Online through the single player and through the campaign. So you're kind of up Stitch Creek without a paddle at that point if you're launching around Grand Theft Auto. You probably just need to give that game a month of space and just hope that your game's good enough to get traction and hope that people want to play your game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, GTA is going to be a big event in gaming history. Like, probably one of the biggest events in years and years and years and years. Because you got to remember, right? A lot of the people that came into GTA, the modern GTA, they came in through GTA Online.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of youngsters, a lot of kids who grew up playing GTA Online, and yeah, kids play GTA, and like literally, there's all this pearl clutching about, oh no, think of the kids, dude. Everybody kids play GTA. We play GTA as kids. The kids are playing GTA right now, but they all came in through GTA Online. So for them, for millions of people, this is going to be the first GTA launch event that they've experienced. And it's a very different kind of GTA in a way, but it's going to be a huge event. It's going to be absolutely massive, like Halo was back in the day, and all that kind of stuff. I'm excited for that, actually. And I'm not the biggest GTA fan out there. I do like GTA, and I appreciate GTA, like what it does for the industry and stuff. I'm not the biggest GTA stan in the world, and I will play it, but it's like, for people who do love that game, it's going to be a huge event for them. It's exciting.
Nothing else will even matter. We got Darko's Dreamers saying, I'm actually ordering ginger beer for the first time. What brand do you suggest, Jez? Oh, when you open a webpage in the UK, is it cookies or biscuits?
That's so weird. I was literally thinking about that the other day, like how it's annoying that it's named cookies. But anyway, but no, they are called cookies. But I haven't actually had much ginger beer in my life, but I drank I had Copperberg's. Copperberg does ginger beer now. That's what I had in the pub earlier. So that was quite nice. Orange flavored Copperberg ginger beer. Copperberg's always all about the fruit, right?
Yeah.
So, I recommend it.
We have Miami Magpie, and the super chat is saying, "Not wasted yet, but all we have is time." Very, very true. Champagne Supernova says, "Have a great show, guys. Question: how come we shouldn't count the Series S sales, but we can count the Portal sales? P.S. Scalebound." Yeah, I did see that MPD is counting the Portal as hardware sale. I don't know if that goes overall to the overall like sales of PlayStation in general, but it is listed as like hardware, and I think it was like number 4 behind the Switch. But I don't know what the drop off is between Switch to the Portal. I think Sony did sell out of all the ones they made, but who knows how many they made.
NPD is just not really relevant anymore.
Whoa, Jez, whoa, don't say that, bro. What do you mean? You can't say such things like that. Matt Piscatella not gonna like you.
He already doesn't like me.
Oh, he doesn't already like me? Okay.
It's not relevant, man. Like, Microsoft has ABK now. It's none of it's relevant. It's all about service engagement, all about how much microtransactions to do. Microsoft's Tencent now. They ain't competing with Sony. It's over. We don't care about sales anymore. The only thing that matters, if like Microsoft comes out in a quarterly and says our console engagement figures went down, then it matters. But as long as it keeps going up, then it doesn't matter. Really, really doesn't matter.
Interesting. Okay. Joshua B says, "I can't believe the Series X2 S2 will launch with Elder Scrolls 6, Halo 7, Banjo-Kazooie, Blade, Gears 6, OD, and Scalebound day 1 in just 1 year. Bravo, Phil." Setting up for next gen, because that is kind of a speculation talking point of the show, because it is sort of as I did see Jess said, Jeff Grubb confirms. Jeff Grubb confirms.
I can't believe that, guys. Like, did you guys hear about this? Jeff Grubb.
Yeah.
Jeff Grubb literally on his podcast earlier went out and confirmed the Xbox Series X Pro is launching sooner than the PS5 Pro. I can't believe Jeff Grubb just went and dropped that information definitively on his show. That wasn't at all speculation. It was just completely confirmed by Jeff. He even showed off some documents proving it as well, which is crazy. Now, shout out to Jeff for such a great leak. That's definitely true and not speculation at all.
Now, for those of you who think Jez is being serious, it's not true.
What are you talking about? It's 100% true.
The Grubster got slothed, and yeah, we'll talk.
Nah. You should all go and ask Jeff Grubb about next gen Xbox because he literally confirmed it earlier. He confirmed it.
He's gonna hate you. He's gonna hate you.
Don't downplay Jeff Grubb. He confirmed it. It wasn't speculation. He's just saving face when he says that. He confirmed it, bro.
He basically told us the truth and then said, "Wait a minute, we're just speculating."
It's like you when you say like, "I'm just speculating that all these things are gonna happen that actually did completely happen." It's just like that.
That's not true. That's fake news. It's never happened. We have Champagne Supernova saying, "Shout out to Windows Central for the Game Pass article after IGN posted how to cancel Game Pass. Hug Destin for us. IGN making him ice skate uphill." Yeah, that was a thing. That was definitely thing this week. That I even saw like Stein reply to. I even saw the official like Xbox Game Pass Twitter account reply to it. Now
that was super funny.
Any journalist will tell you that was just an SEO play, right? People search for how to cancel everything, whether it's Netflix, whether it's, Prime or any of that sort of stuff. So it's not odd that they would have a how to cancel Xbox Game Pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, there's been a lot of talk about Xbox tax and the whole situation with the whole meme with Destin. We're like, I don't know. I think you might have seen it where they mentioned about Starfield losing players, and Destin sarcastically saying it's losing players, but then the host being like, "Yeah, it is," and Destin's like, "Yeah, well, it's a single player game," and like the look Destin gives him, like the look of death.
I can't even. I love Destin, man. Destin's a really good guy, like and but yeah, he's been at the fore of some of these discussions, fairly or not, right? But yeah, like Destin relays his opinion in good faith, But that's the thing about this IGN article. It's like it's really funny, right? Because they tweeted that out, how to cancel Xbox Game Pass, and everyone was really mad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just an SEO play. Literally, that's exactly what That's the point of SEO. Is like if there's a question someone's typing into Google, your website better have an answer for that question, Otherwise, your competitors making money that you could be making, So, like every single question that's related to your field, you have to cover it. Like if you want to prove to the algorithm that you know about Xbox Game Pass, you better have an answer for every single question relating to Xbox Game Pass. That's just good SEO. That's just smart, right? But sometimes I wouldn't necessarily tweet an SEO article like that, because it's not for social media audience. It's for Google. It's for the Google audience. It's not necessarily for social media. So it's really funny because after that, I went and I thought I'm going to be really snarky here, and I tweeted out from Windows Central Gaming.
Yes.
Yeah. I tweeted how to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass, and I linked our Xbox Game Pass FAQ, right? And I thought, oh, I'm really clever. I'm really hilarious right now. And then I went into that article, and it hadn't been updated for like 4 years or something like that. And I was like, oh shit. And now I was like, then there was loads of replies, people saying like, huh, what's all this about? This article's completely wrong. You got this wrong. This doesn't exist. Why does it say this? And I thought, oh god, I've got to go and edit everything. So I was like, I was trying to troll IGN, but I just made a load of extra work for myself in the process. So I suppose that's like instant karma, right? But yeah, it was just an SEO thing. Like, it's just that's how you play the game. That's how you prove to Google you're an authority in that space. You have to write every single one of those articles, right? And then also as well, and I realized after I tweeted that out, like if you search how to cancel Xbox Game Pass Windows Central, we have the exact same article, So even though I'm there being snarky and stuff.
Yeah, but you didn't tweet it out for engagement, though.
I didn't tweet it out. No, it was for Google.
Because the people. This is the one thing I wish people would stop doing is like replying and spreading. Because all you're doing is essentially exactly what they want. Like IGN wants you to reply to it and retweet it and do whatever because it spreads its reach. I think people also took umbrage with the fact that there was
umbrage.
Good word. They took umbrage with the fact that there was a Game Pass article about how to cancel it, but there also wasn't a how to cancel PlayStation Plus article. So it was like,
no!
wait a minute, and then they literally like IGN literally posted one like later that day, but it was like so that was kind of like it's like, oh man, Xbox tax, IGN, Destin, when does it ever end? But that was kind of funny.
Xbox tax is the Xbox IRS was coming for his tax back.
Yeah, it sure is. We have Asta Moeth, who says, finally getting to listen live. Thanks for making work bearable these last few years. Well, thank you.
Oh, thanks so much.
A lot of people listen to us at work. We try.
I noticed, sorry, go on.
Well, we try to, we do a long show. It's like half of a work day. So hopefully at least one of your work days goes by pretty fast and quickly. Or your drive to work. Maybe you listen to us on the drive to work every, there and back throughout the whole week or whatever. We appreciate everybody who listens, whether it's live here on YouTube or later on YouTube or on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you can download podcasts. I believe we are available, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I was gonna say. What was gonna say?
What were you gonna say?
I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Some people were saying on Twitter, and they were like, "Oh wow, they've delayed it by 2 hours. I can finally listen live." Like because depending on where you are and what time zone is, sometimes people can listen, sometimes it's the wrong time for them and stuff like that. There's but yeah.
Indeed, we have Tate Master Jujitsu saying Gene is wrong if we're losing in sales. I mean,
the sales matter though. Nobody says Tencent's losing.
I mean, all he said was when you're talking about the games and strategy, he just said that Xbox's future looks better. I mean, I don't know how. That's the thing. It's like
Rand, I've just got to swap the battery in my headset. Give me one moment.
And the thing is, if you look at like all the things Xbox is doing, and all the things that we know that PlayStation is doing, like you don't even know PlayStation's roadmap. It's like non-existent at this point. I'm sure there is one, but it's not like PlayStation has told us about their roadmap. I think we only really know about 8 games from PlayStation's combined first party and second party stuff like Rise of the Ronin and things like that. So when you look at like Xbox, with granted they announced a whole lot of games early, so part of the reason we know Xbox's roadmap, or at least what games are coming, is because Xbox did announce them way ahead of time. But you have all these games that Xbox has announced, which I think is something like 21 that we know of. And that doesn't even really include like future ABK stuff. Or maybe it does, like Odyssey or the next Call of Duty and stuff. Or there's still Bethesda games that we don't even know. Like we know but it's working on something, but we don't know what. And we know ZeniMax is working on something, ZeniMax Online, but we don't know what yet. You would assume there's some other projects in development, some of the other studios as well. So it's like, yeah, I mean, right now, I don't know how you couldn't look at Xbox's like strategy and their path and look at PlayStation's and just be like, you know what? I think Xbox is shit, or their roadmap is awful in comparison. It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like Xbox's definitely seems better. Mainly because PlayStation is kind of just, they've had a lot of internal struggle. I mean, they're laying 6 of their 12 live service games. There's a lot of things going on behind PlayStation that's not exactly good. I don't know if you saw, Jez, but Insomniac was just hacked.
Yeah, I did see that, yeah.
By a ransomware group.
They leaked Spider-Man 3, right?
Well, it was like they sort of leaked a new... Would it be a Spider-Man game, but like based in like Into the Spider-Verse, like the movies kind of thing?
Oh, right.
But also there's some screenshots of Wolverine, which kind of looked very much like God of War, but instead of Kratos, it's Wolverine, which I guess makes sense. But one of the things I said on an For an Umbra show last night, it was like, man, it'd be nice if these hackers could download Sony's roadmap and leak that to us, huh? At least we would have something to look forward to. But either way, yeah, a lot of focus on sales, because that's an area that Sony's doing incredibly well in. Although apparently everybody was down this November, according to MPD Jez. Like not only Xbox, but Switch and PlayStation were down greater than 20% in comparison to last year.
I think the pandemic, the end of work from home, and the return of the daily commute has probably contributed to that to some degree. Like you have to remember there was still lockdowns going on last year, and people were still being really cautious about, do I lock down the office if one person's had COVID and stuff like that. I think there was some tail end there. Like pretty much nowhere's closed now. And China had all its lockdowns still going on last year as well, which would have impacted some live services, maybe, possibly. But I know they're only talking about America, right?
Yeah. The economy's not in a good space,
Yeah, people are nervous about the economy too. Like, talking about. I remember we were literally talking about this last year. They were saying there was going to be a huge, massive recession this year. Didn't happen. But like, still, the economy's been rocky, and people are still predicting a recession, and like, interest rate hikes to artificially create a recession to try and get inflation down, stuff like that, and yeah. So there's nervousness about spending, the economy, and also I think like, I I don't know. It is a bit weird because there has been so many games that came out this year that were such high quality, and you got to presume that like there's a lot of games that kids could buy this year, get for Christmas, like Harry Potter if they haven't got it already, and stuff like that. And there's been some crazy sales. You know, like I saw like the Xbox Series X going for $350 in America.
It's I mean it's like officially $399 now. But yeah,
the retailers are going even
some
harder.
of the retailers are selling it for $350, which is ridiculous. I saw like Target was maybe selling the Series S for $150.
Yeah.
So there are some insane sales if you want to.
$130. I saw.
Was it $130? Yeah. So there are insane sales if you want to get in and get one of your, an Xbox console. Yeah,
Maybe they're doing a fire sale because the next Xbox is coming sooner than we think. Per
the next
Jeff
Xbox
Grubb's
or
confirmed leak.
Yeah, the confirmed leak from the Grubbmeister.
Confirmed leak from Jeff Grubb. Jeff Grubb and Mike Minotti out there just casually leaking the next Xbox.
Could you believe that?
I can't believe he also leaked all the specs for the next Switch as well.
Ooh,
Switch 2.
The Switch 2?
And he also leaked photographs for the next Switch on his podcast as well. Yeah.
Damn. He's doing a lot.
He's really putting in work, and he also leaked the screenshots of the next Pokemon, the next Zelda, and he also confirmed the launch date for the new Metroid Prime as well. We're on his podcast all at the same time. Like, how do you compete with that, man?
I mean,
how can we possibly compete with Jeff Grubb when he's leaking all this? I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's difficult. It's very difficult.
It's very difficult, bro. It's difficult. He also leaked Scalebound Revival as well.
Yeah,
crazy.
And he also has the release date of Grand Theft Auto 6. So
yeah, it's wild, man. It's absolutely
crazy.
Wild. Jeff, unparalleled.
We have Hancho Reckless saying, off topic, but Rand, do you keep up with George R.R. Martin? And if you do, when do you predict the next installment of Winds of Winter? Probably never. I don't expect George R.R. Martin to release any of the books, the last two books in A Song of Ice and Fire. I do keep up because he's an incredible writer, and what? Just,
but that's Game of Thrones, right?
Yes.
But Game of Thrones is finished.
The TV show is finished, but he never finished the books.
So how did they finish the TV show without the books?
Because they made it up, and that was the reason why it was all crap, because they made it all up. They didn't have the adaptation to work off of anymore. Like, the best seasons of Game of Thrones are the ones where they were following the books. As soon as they got past the books, the show kind of became not very good. Why didn't they
just wait for... Well, I suppose if he hasn't written them...
Well, yeah, it's been... I forget how long it's been since the last book came out, and... It's been a long time since the last book.
What, has he got writer's block?
I mean, I don't really think he even cares. I think he's beyond the books at this. I don't think he's ever going to finish them. I think he,
isn't that what made him famous?
Well, I mean, yeah, it made him famous. It made a lot of money. I mean, he doesn't probably have to write, but he's also doing more TV stuff. Like there's the House of Dragons is going to be in season 2, and I think they picked up one other Game of Thrones shows. I don't really think he cares about the books anymore. So I don't think he's ever going to finish them, honestly. But if he does,
why doesn't he just make it a TV show then instead?
Yeah, he's just doing other stuff. I don't think he cares.
Damn.
But maybe I'm wrong. I'd like for him to finish it because I'd read it. Just James, member for 1 month, says, hi guys, love the channel. Not long for 300. Smash that like button. Turn on notifications and subscribe. Xbox community is better than anything else. Just James is 100% right. Xbox community is top tier. And you should do what he says. Smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Yeah. Achievement says the next Xbox would likely be the Galaxy S21 naming scheme. They'll be called 10 for the generation, and every Xbox going forward will be 11, 12, etc. Games will list supported Xbox versions like phones. What do you think about that?
I do think it's going to be very different way that Xbox approaches this stuff. Because, like, I was saying on Twitter earlier, like, no one wants to admit this, but Xbox Series X and S, they're still Xbox One consoles at the end of the day. Same operating system, same games. Backwards and forwards compatibility kind of did away with the concept of generations in the traditional sense. And I think we're moving to a more Windows-like format for these consoles. I expect the next Xbox will also be fully backwards compatible with all the same stuff and features. But there'll probably be some kind of AI gimmicks in the next Xbox, which I'm a little nervous about, even though I don't know anything really about it. But historically, when Microsoft has tried to force its current tech trend into Xbox, it's been to Xbox's detriment. So like they were like, oh yeah, we're doing spatial tech. Let's put Kinect in the Xbox, and that was to Xbox's detriment. And then they were like, oh yeah, we're doing this, we're building phones. Let's have smart glass or whatever. And that was to Xbox's detriment, arguably. And then like now they're doing AI, and there's all these rumors about the next Xbox maybe having some kind of AI co-processor, And then it's kind of like, will that inflate the price though? Do I really want AI? Is PlayStation going to come out with something more simple? Are they going to be able to say like, oh, don't download this Xbox, it steals your data or something, even though every single online device in the whole universe steals your data? I do wonder like how people will react to such a thing, because there's always like this panic and doom and gloom when Microsoft tries to do anything remotely innovative, right? So, but yeah, I do expect the next Xbox will just be another Xbox One, and with all the same games and all the same everything, just more powerful, more resolution, more ray tracing, and all that kind of stuff. Because we're kind of at that point now where you kind of want all your digital library to come with you, right? You guys don't want a true next gen console that can't run any of your Xbox One or Xbox Series X and S or even your Xbox 360 games, right? You want a console that can run everything, right? You don't want to lose your digital libraries, right? Right, guys? Right, Rand?
I mean, sure. I mean,
because that's what a true next gen console would be, is that you lose all that stuff.
Why would it be a true next gen console if you lose that stuff? Well,
because it would be different architecture.
Why would you need to use different architecture? You could just use the same architecture.
Well, yeah, well then it's just the same generation.
But how's it the same generation if it's well beyond? Like a 4090 is well beyond a 1080, is it not? Even though it's the same.
Well, yeah, but that's what we're moving towards, is that kind of PC-like ecosystem where it just runs everything. It's not like the past where a generation was a definitive cutoff from the previous generation, like how the PS4 couldn't really run PS3 games, and stuff like that. All and right. Like even the PS3 lost the first version of the PS3 could run PS2 games, and then like they released a new version that couldn't.
Yeah, because it cost them money because they had the physical parts within the PS3 to emulate the PS2 games, right?
Yeah,
and then they removed it in the later versions, so there was no emulation because it was costing them money, and they're already selling the console for like $600, and PlayStation 3 was awful, dead as a doornail when it came. Like, I remember Gabe Newell came out. I remember there was like third-party publishers that came out and was like, yeah, we might not support the PlayStation because of how bad it was at the time, right? Yeah. But so what we're talking about here is this idea of Xbox next generation coming early. And the reason people are talking about it is because there is like a AMD sort of leaker guy or data miner guy essentially saying that the next Xbox is coming earlier than anybody expected. I think he even mentioned that potentially the Xbox Series X and S refresh that is supposed... Like, all right, see, we had seen Xbox's plans. They leaked. If you remember September, it was like right around September, during the FTC stuff, someone from Microsoft uploaded the wrong stuff to... I totally forget how, but like either way, we got all of Microsoft documentations and their leaks and all this sort of stuff. We saw their roadmap. We saw that they were building something for 2028, essentially. And it was a big embarrassment for Xbox, right? Big embarrassment.
A little bit.
Because everything was out there. Everything was out there. Even Bethesda leaks of their games, which, that was from 2020. And it seems like that may not be true anymore, right? Because we're getting Blade, and it doesn't really seem like we're going to be getting Dishonored 3. So some of that stuff might be outdated, and I think is outdated, right? But this leak...
I think I can't remember when I did this, but I confirmed some stuff from that old document was not accurate anymore. So that kind of throws it all into question, right?
Well, I mean, and that old document was from 2020, right? So it was, and we were looking at it now in 2023, so I was like, okay. But the document that, with the roadmap that Xbox was putting out, that was from like May of 2022. So it was more fresh, right? It was just from last year, right? Now, Brian says the leak plans were from 2020. No, they were not. The 2020 plans were Bethesda. The Xbox plans were from like May of 2022. They were not from 2020. So, and Phil had come out and said, "Hey, it sucks to see people's work like this leak, but these aren't the true plans." They constantly reiterated that it's not the true plans, and we're kind of sitting there like, okay, what is reality? What is the truth here, right? And we kind of thought maybe at least the new controller with the haptics might be true, or the refreshes, but it sounds like, at least according to this guy, that it sounds like the refreshes were canceled. And that they're actually just bringing forward next generation earlier than people expect, meaning 2026 or 2027, when Microsoft originally had positioned the next Xbox for 2028. And that's where Jeff Grubb and Mike Minotti were talking about it, and would that be a good thing for Xbox, that sort of stuff. And of course, they get clipped, and it's like, even though it says it's a rumor, people sort of take that stuff as fact. Like, oh, this is actually happening, but nobody really knows. I've even seen some tech YouTubers out there saying, like, absolutely, I've talked to people. The next generation Xbox is coming earlier than people would expect. So the reason we're talking about it is because it is something that is being discussed, right? And is it true? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I don't have any information about it. I don't think, Jez, you have any information about it. Right?
Not right now.
Not like any documentation that would point to it. But I guess the idea is, is it beneficial to Microsoft? Would it be beneficial for Microsoft to essentially start next gen early? Would it be something that would benefit Microsoft to not have your next Xbox on the store shelves side by side with the next PlayStation at the exact same time, at the exact same price? Like, maybe Microsoft does need to get away from that. Maybe they do need to jump out early and have a new system out there and have all the sort of space and marketing to themselves. Because Sony, if you're releasing both consoles at the same time, both are going to be spending all your money. Some people may not have money for both. But if you're coming out 2 years early, well, now you have all the marketing to yourself. People not necessarily making the comparisons for it. So I could see the benefits to Microsoft doing it. I don't really think there's any real negatives unless like the hardware they do essentially come out with is like undercooked, and we end up with like Red Ring of Deaths like the 360.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm just saying, sometimes that's what happens if you try to launch products early. Like some of the defects that you might actually discover might come out. But in my mind, I think it would actually be beneficial for Xbox to do it. And I'm not saying that they will do it. And I know some people will be like, what about the power narrative? And it's like, bro, like, the power narrative done anything for the Xbox this gen? I don't think so. Right? No. I think it was important for Microsoft to have a powerful system because they were getting destroyed from the PS4 generation in the comparisons between Xbox One games and the PS4 games. I think it was important for Microsoft to be like, no, we need to rectify this, and they did with the One X. And then when you have the PS5 and the Series S or Series X, I know people expected the Series X to win every single face-off, and it hasn't. And maybe it hasn't lived up to what was promised by Microsoft, and I think that is true. I mean, essentially, the PS5 and the Series X are almost like the same identical console. They run games pretty much the exact same with slight variances in frame rate or resolution, with one of them maybe doing ray tracing better than the other. But for the most part, it's pretty much the same. And the only differences are the library, the exclusive games, Game Pass versus PlayStation Plus. So to me, if you were to move away from launching side by side with a brand that is bigger, right, worldwide, you could potentially grab some people. You could get people excited about a next gen console a couple years earlier than someone else. I
I think
don't.
as well, like the power narrative, like I don't think, I don't think it matters the same way it used to. Um, and I think like it will serve them if they've got an alternative selling point like Nintendo had. Like Nintendo's selling point was, yes, we're less powerful, but we can do this. And I think the next Xbox will potentially have something like that with this rumored AI co-processor. So like there are some companies that are like they're doing like AI processing natively, right? The next Samsung phone is rumored to have an AI co-processor, which means like things like you know when you if you're using ChatGPT or something like that, and you're sort of you ask it a question, it sort of takes a little while because it has to go up to the internet, it processes through the servers and then comes back down, right? Um and But if you've got onboard processing for some of this stuff, it can be really quick. So like if the Xbox can do things like, you know, you play Minecraft and it's like make me a custom map that looks like, I don't know, a zombie infested New York City or something with battle royale rules, and then like it will generate that exact game mode and that map for your Minecraft game or maybe your Halo Forge game right there on the box really quickly, faster than it would if it was going up to the cloud. So there's potentially some really cool stuff that Microsoft could do with AI generating user generated content, right? When it comes to designing maps in Forge or Minecraft and stuff like that. Or even generating assets, you know, maybe it could be like design me a t-shirt for my avatar and then like you can use it in a 1 versus 100, or maybe 1 versus 100 generates questions using AI in, you know, for the quiz and stuff like that. There's so much that could do that would differentiate themselves in that context and then get out there, and then maybe they do lose a power narrative and stuff. But there's one issue with that, Rand.
What's the issue?
You don't want to lose a power narrative when Grand Theft Auto is coming out and PlayStation could just be like, this is the best way to experience Grand Theft Auto because it looks best on our system and it looks bad on the other system. That is probably the one time where you couldn't get away with that if you're Xbox.
Right. So you think PS5 Pro being out in 2025 running the best version of Grand Theft Auto is pretty bad for Xbox at that time?
I think that could be pretty spooky, you know. I mean, it depends. Like maybe Xbox has some kind of special AI stuff for Grand Theft Auto, you know, where you can generate liveries for your car or something using AI. But and then it becomes like, do people actually really care about that much, kind of thing? And all that kind of stuff. I already seen people in chat saying, "Oh, I don't care about AI. I don't care about AI." And that's the issue that Microsoft has when it comes up with new features that it wants people to use, like Kinect or whatever, because a lot of people just want a traditional box that makes Grand Theft Auto look good. And if PlayStation has that, but Xbox doesn't, it could again become another Xbox One situation with the Kinect, right? They have to prove why AI is worth having on the box. And that's something I'm kind of nervous about, that they won't be able to. It'll again be like, oh, they're just using us to test out their technology, right? And it won't necessarily be actually good for anything, you know. But there's also other uses for AI, you know, like upscaling, for example, and that kind of thing, you know. But it could have just be nothing, pure speculation. But I do like the idea of Xbox getting out there earlier. I think it would serve them, but would they actually do it? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they would have to really shift their plans if they were planning on being out in 2028. And now, we're changing it and we're going to be out in 2026, which seems way too early to me. 2027, you know, if you're thinking PlayStation's coming out in 2028 and that's what you're going to do, but now you're going to launch in 2027, that seems at least more realistic to me, that you would just launch a year ahead than 2, because it seems like a lot of plans would have to change if you're coming out with the console 2 years ahead of, you know, your original planning. I don't know how. I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. It is an interesting discussion. about like the benefits of launching early, because it's like, oh, we're launching early, we're going to be the only one on store shelves. Like Switch 2 is launching next year. It's going to be the only new piece of hardware outside of like maybe a PS5 Pro, which is probably going to be really expensive, and potentially 2 refreshes of Xbox consoles, which isn't that exciting. They're brand new hardware, 7 years in the making, essentially. That's exciting for Switch fans, for Nintendo fans, right? Maybe even for third parties. If the Switch 2 can run AAA games, actually run them this time, that's exciting for the industry, right? Whereas
all the games that are locked to PS4 and above could launch on the Switch too. So that gives all those publishers who are like, oh man, you know, this is an extra opportunity to sell definitive editions of our game on the Switch, right?
Yeah.
The competition's getting crazy. Like you got the Steam Deck coming in from the background as well, and that's doing numbers, man. Steam Deck OLED, just doing numbers, baby.
But then,
it's cool, man.
But then I guess you run into the problem where if you do launch in 2026 and you're launching early, and PlayStation launches 2 years later, they're probably going to be significantly better than your system. And would that pose a problem eventually? But then again, the console sales matter that much to them at that point? Because we've talked about Xbox's console sales in Europe and how they're down quite a bit, right? We've talked about, it was like 52% or whatever it was. We had mentioned that. You know, we just mentioned like, hey, November, everybody was down greater than 20%. You mentioned that like NPD sales don't matter anymore, or the console sales don't matter. So I guess you could make an argument that it doesn't matter if Xbox came out early and PlayStation came out later with the better system, because to Microsoft, consoles are just one aspect of the business and it's not the entire business. So as long as people are buying the consoles and like using Game Pass and subscribing, but then we also have all the other avenues, and we have Activision Blizzard, then it's not that big of a deal, which is certainly possible. I don't know. I
think some of it also comes back to like the service game issue, right? Like I was talking about earlier, how all I want to do right now is chill and play Diablo, and I think that's like a two-pronged issue for Microsoft right now, because you've got older gamers who are maybe too busy and too tired to play maybe some of these like more traditional story-driven single-player action adventure games, and you've also got younger gamers who grew up with TikTok who just have no attention span for this kind of game. Like I know so many people who play games but really they just want to play Roblox, Valorant, and all the games that are popular on TikTok and stuff like that. So like, how many youngsters are really getting into those kind of experiences as well? And it kind of serves Microsoft's purpose if like most people have a preference for service games, and that's one of the reasons why Sony's like, some people are nervous about Sony from an investment perspective, because they don't seem to have a strong strategy for that potential reality where people do end up, preferring service games. And there are obvious caveats to that narrative. One being Baldur's Gate, which completely destroyed that narrative this summer. But it's like, how many Baldur's Gates can exist in 1 year? And like, Alan Wake doesn't seem to have shifted as many units as they perhaps hoped they would have done. And part of that is because it's on the Epic Game Store. But dude, if you can't even get people to download a launcher to play the game, they're not going to switch to a whole new console if they've already got all their games digitally on PlayStation or Xbox. And I think Microsoft kind of just thinks, well, we've lost those PlayStation games forever. The people who switch from 360 to PS4, we've lost them forever. They've built up their libraries, digital libraries, and there's just nothing we could do to offer them an experience that would make them switch, in any sort of meaningful way. And for them, like, someone coming over from PlayStation just to maybe play one exclusive and not subscribe and not, sort of build a, their gaming life around Xbox, that could be potentially a loss for them. Because if you buy an Xbox just to play one game or 2 game, you don't subscribe to Game Pass, you don't even subscribe to Game Pass Core for Xbox Live Gold or whatever, that could be a loss-making exercise for them. This is another reason why Microsoft isn't so desperate to sell systems, especially not when they're second place as a companion console, because there's not very much money in being the companion console, right? They'd rather like upgrade people who are hardcore Xbox One players, or hardcore even 360 players. They'd rather upgrade those people because at least they've got their digital libraries and they're locked into the ecosystem, right? So it's a little bit of a different thing these days. And that's why like the only thing that really matters is games. And it's like it doesn't matter where your games are. PC, we're in a content world now, which is why like I think Microsoft does flirt with investors by telling them things like, oh yeah, we'll put our games everywhere and stuff, because maybe that is just the way the industry will end up going, regardless of what anyone here wants to happen. Maybe that's just the way the whole industry will go. Maybe that's the way PlayStation and Nintendo will have to go as well, in the longer term future, right? If they do want to find that growth, it's probably just better to let someone else worry about the hardware, and you just take the sick margins that you get on a service game where you're selling horse armor, which costs like $20 to make, and then like you sell it for like $1 million or something like that. I mean, that's an exaggeration about it costing $20, but you know what I mean. The industry is very different now, and I think a lot of people, especially journalists and of a certain age, they cling to this idea of console sales mattering and the single player games mattering and this sort of, we want everything to be like how it was when we were kids. A lot of content creators can't get out of that mentality when that is just not the whole business, and it hasn't been for many years, and it's getting even less like that as every year goes on. No one can predict what future trends will look like. Maybe there'll be a big backlash against digital, because of people not wanting to truly own their content and stuff like that. And maybe everyone will be like, oh God, we need to buy physical games again. But unless like literally every single one of us stopped buying digital games tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, because then you can even talk about like you mentioned, and I fully do agree with you, like games matter. But I also think the popularity of your system matters, because I look at the Switch and I look at the Wii U, and maybe the most popular Switch game out there, Mario Kart 8, which sold, I think, like 55 million copies, is just a Wii U port. It's just a game that was already on the Wii U, but nobody bought because nobody bought the Wii U. But put it on the Switch, which is incredibly popular, suddenly that game is incredibly popular. So even though the game's still exactly the same, and it was on the previous generation, it didn't live up to its potential until you put it on a system that was popular, right? So, because I even sort of think like the Xbox games like Ori and the Will of the Wisps would have been much more successful and probably had way more awards nominations and won more awards if the Xbox One was a successful platform. Or like imagine if the Xbox One was a platform that succeeded on the level of 360, right? Then you would see the games that Xbox had put out that gen probably have higher acclaim, maybe even like higher review scores.
Well, we talked a little bit about this with Gene, like how,
yeah,
like Quantum Break and Rise reviewed really harshly, and Sunset Overdrive, because journalists were punishing Microsoft for the Xbox One, or content creators in general were punishing Microsoft for the Xbox One. So like Quantum Break, Rise, and other games, they caught, and Sunset Overdrive, they caught a lot of that negativity and that blowback, which they probably might not have done if they had been on other platforms.
And the same thing happened to Wii U games. And then basically when the Switch blew, had this huge success, they put all those Wii U games that nobody played on the Switch, and suddenly they're selling millions because the Switch was popular and the Wii U wasn't, and the Xbox One wasn't popular. Although the Xbox One still sold like 50 plus million consoles, so it wasn't a slouch. It just didn't sell as much as the, here's down the Otaku. It sold 6 million on the Wii with 13 million consoles. Yes, because everybody buys Nintendo consoles for the Nintendo games, but then you put that same game on a Nintendo Switch, and instead of selling 6 million, it sells 55 million. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, Xbox's problem is the perception that they don't release any games, right? You have the dude from IGN basically saying, oh, Xbox has no games. Not my words, the internet's words, right? It still has that mindset. So, like, the only thing that's going to change that is, releasing a whole bunch of games. And then, you know, like, if you were planning on releasing, you know, a next-gen console in 2026, we already know a lot of games that Xbox has in development. They could line that up and have, you know, a great 2024, great 2025, have a new console come out and a whole bunch of games to go with it, because one of the arguments you can make was that Xbox didn't really plan for the launch of the Series X well, because the only game they launched with was Gears Tactics. So they didn't really have, but then it's like they sold out of everything they had, so did it even really matter? And then 2021 was really successful because they had a lot of, you know, they were Publisher of the Year after all. So, you know, how much does that matter? But I think, like, if Microsoft can, I think the only way they're going to change the media's perception of them and then gamers' perception of them is they have to go on a streak of just years of releasing high quality content consistently. They, you know, they essentially have to just, 2024 has got to be great, so is 2025, 2026. And if you can string together like that sort of consistent quality, then I think, you know, the memes will die away, and people saying, you know, Xbox doesn't have any games or whatever, or any good games, will just be completely gone, right? And you know, that's at least in my opinion. And I think they're doing that. I mean, they have all these studios making all these games. Yeah, granted, all of them won't hit. I'm sure there'll be a couple here and there that aim for the sun and fail, that won't review well. But I still feel that Xbox is set up for pretty damn good success. And launching a next-gen console early, that could go along with it. I don't really see any negatives. The only negative to me would be if you just push it out early and it's not ready, and then you have, like, actual physical problems. Because I really do think it benefits Xbox to not be positioned against the PlayStation, because I don't think Xbox, like, when you side by side, I don't think it favors Xbox. Not right now, at least. I mean, I think PlayStation is just a bigger brand, and when you put them side by side with the consumers, I think people choose PlayStation, you know, over it. So I think you need to break that shackle. Maybe just even break the idea of generations in general, and just being like, well, it's not a pro, or it's like, we're not calling, it's just the next system. And it seemed like we were going to get that. There's some of Phil's comments that were along those lines, and it's sort of, I don't know, it sort of feel like maybe he was just saying some things and it didn't really pan out, but maybe it will. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I would imagine if that stuff is true, people like the Brad Sams of the world and the Grubbs of the world and the Jezes of the world will essentially find out well in advance, like, if that's something possible, you know? I don't know. Anyways, we got some super chats here to read. We have Tate Master Jujutsu saying 2024 order of lineup. Colt said Hellblade 2 May 21st-ish. I mean, well, I hope Colt's right with that. You know, May, yeah, it could happen in May. I think Hellblade 2 is first half of the year. If I had to guess what else is first half of the year, probably Towerborn and Microsoft Flight Sim. I mean, we know Call of Duty's end of the year, and Our History Untold, Avowed, if I had to guess, are probably towards the end of the year as well. And they said they have unannounced games, so your guess is as good as mine of what those could be. I mean, I do think we will get a direct soon enough, early next year, where they'll lay out what this is what's coming in the next 6 months with dates. Because they have to, because we don't know what Xbox's 2024 lineup looks like. Or we do, sort of, but we just don't know when they're coming out. And I think they need to let people know that. Man, Fun Speculation says, congrats on an awesome 2023. Rand and Jez for your podcast. You're all both awesome. Deserve the success. Thank you, Mav. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Birdie.
Achievement says, Xbox already had a pro. It's called PC. Yeah, but not all PCs are pros, though. Not every PC is created equal.
That's true.
And, you know, yeah, PC is a big part of Microsoft and Xbox's future. You know, they view it as a growth segment. I don't know if they'll ever cut into any of Steam's market share, and my thinking would be they never will. I just don't see how you're going to convince people to actually. I think they have to just disengage themselves between Windows Store, and it's still.
Well, this is like the diversification of Xbox means like you have a little bit everywhere, right? Maybe they won't beat Steam, maybe they won't beat PlayStation, but they'll have a little bit everywhere, and they will have an audience everywhere. Like for example, I was trying Nvidia GeForce Now on my TV because it's built in. I noticed, like the Samsung Gaming Hub or whatever they call it, right? So it's built into my TV, and I thought I'll try it out because I was given access by Nvidia to their ultimate tier, right? My TV is hardwired into my router, and I do have a gigabyte down. So this is like the absolute optimal conditions for Nvidia GeForce Now. Running on a 480 TV, absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. There's no lag, no artifacting, razor sharp resolution. Just felt completely native. Like no issues whatsoever. I have no idea how to do it. It's pure magic. And you know what's even more magic? All of my Xbox games are there now because of their partnership with PC Gamepass. Or not all of them, but like a lot of them. And they're adding more every week. They added a bunch more this week. And they've got all my Xbox cloud saves. And it completely wipes the floor with xCloud. Like, it's actually a little bit sad how badly it wipes the floor with xCloud. But a lot of people are getting into that. You know, Nvidia GeForce Now could be another avenue for Microsoft to deliver its games and experiences, you know. So like that's the whole idea here, is that you'll be able to get a little bit of Xbox everywhere. And yeah, maybe Xbox can't compete directly with any particular platform, but they will be there in every single niche on every single platform, including your Samsung smart fridge, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it doesn't matter if they're going to try to take market share away from Steam with their own store, considering they put all their games on Steam anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like they'll be there if you want to use that. Like if I want to get my Xbox saves, I can't use a Steam version generally. I have to use the Windows Store version, and they are improving it gradually. Like it's completely usable now. I would say the Xbox app. It's lacking features and stuff compared to Steam, and you know, doing things like modding is still a pain compared to Steam, and there's no mod store like there is on Steam, and managing DLC and cloud saves and things like that are a pain with the Xbox app. But it's like usable. Like I use it on my ROG Ally all the time, and it syncs all my saves with my Xbox. So that's like an ideal scenario for me, you know, in that niche. And yeah, I realize it's niche, but they'll have lots of niches, and that's kind of what Microsoft's always done. They've always been this big, diverse company where they're not really the best at anything, but like they're the jack of all trades kind of thing. Best in cloud, maybe. A lot of people would say Amazon's better. Best operating system, maybe. You know, but Windows has a lot of issues, you know, and that kind of thing. But yeah, maybe they try to do too much. But the diversification means that if any one part of the business fails, the other bits of the business can pick up the slack, right? And that's kind of how Microsoft's always operated.
Yeah. I think the big problem with the Windows Store is nobody really puts their games on it. You know?
Yeah, like, it's only through PC. It's only like because of PC Game Pass that any games end up in there.
Like, yeah. Why would any PC...
And even like some of the games like are inferior to the Steam version. Like Death Stranding, for example, on the Windows Store is missing the DLC. There's no DLC for Death Stranding on the Windows Store. So if you want the full fat Death Stranding experience, you have to get it on Steam. For that definitive edition or whatever it's called, the extra stuff they released, which is annoying, but yeah,
it's just like this thing where it's like, well, like if you want people to use your store, you got to like put the games that people want to play on the store, but that doesn't seem to happen, and it only happens when it's like a Game
Epic
Pass
Games
release.
has the same issue.
So-
Like Microsoft created very favorable terms for developers on the Microsoft Store, similar to Epic Games. But like even Epic Games can't really entice anyone to use Epic Games Store because everyone's on Steam. Everyone's got their digital library on Steam, and that's where they want it. It's like why would I want to spread my games out across different platforms? The only launcher that really could get away with that in the past was Battle.net, but even Blizzard has started putting their games on Steam now because they realize we could really potentially reach a much bigger audience by doing this. And even though Overwatch is the lowest rated game on Steam next to Days Gone because of backlash or whatever, I was told by someone at Blizzard that it's gained like more players than ever as a result of being on Steam. So even though people like clowning on Overwatch, it's still like a massive game. And Steam just is it's more than just a store. It's like a big community, big social experience, the forums on it now, and developers have a direct relationship with their communities on Steam. It's like a whole platform. Epic Games can't compete with that. Microsoft cannot compete with that. But that's why this Game Pass stuff is so important because it's something different. It's something that nobody offers, and but the difference between the PC Game Pass and what what Epic's doing by just offering games for free, at least Game Pass is profitable. Like you got Epic Games like laying people off because they're just spending all this money, chewing through all this money to give stuff away for free in hopes that someone one day will notice the Epic Game Store. I've seen like screenshots of people being like, look at all the games I've got in the Epic Game Store. I've never played any of them and I got all of them for free. And there's like dozens and dozens of games that they've given away for free to try and just beg people to use the store. It's never going to work. It's never going to work for them, man.
No, you're right.
And it sucks, but that's the people see competition as inconvenient these days.
I faced 23
Not Days Gone. The day before. Sorry, I said Days Gone when I meant the day before.
He says, "Won't some people jump ship to the PS5 Pro for multiplats if it's playing third-party games better and build a library on PlayStation? Will they get an Xbox in 2026?" Depends. I mean, it depends how much better is a PlayStation 5 Pro playing games. You know, like I think I've seen some tech heads say that Grand Theft Auto 6 won't be 60 frames on the PS5 Pro. That the jump between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro is very similar to the jump between the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, which I don't think a lot of people bought the PS4 Pro. Plus, how expensive is the PS5 Pro? You know, like you look at Sony raising prices and you look at their margins. Is Sony going to take a loss on the PS5 Pro? Are they going to introduce it at 500? Are they going to have it at 600? Is it going to be 700? If so, is somebody going to be like, all right, I'm jumping in on the PlayStation now at this price? I think the PS5 Pro is probably going to be more for existing PlayStation customers that want to upgrade, not necessarily for new users. You know, especially if it's...
What new users?
Well, I mean, he's saying, like, won't people jump ship? He's saying, like, will people... I guess he's saying, would Xbox fans jump ship?
I think what you could get is, like, the opposite of what I wrote recently, where I was saying, like, Microsoft could have an opportunity with the Xbox Series S as being the cheapest way to experience Grand Theft Auto if you're a PC gamer who can't resist the FOMO. But similarly, if, you know, the PS5 Pro is the best way to experience GTA 6 for people who have got a lot of money to spend and disposable income and don't mind taking the hit. I mean, for PC gamers who like prefer to have things running as good as possible, maybe you could get like a high spending enthusiast audience out of that you know, that coalescence of events. So yeah, I think that could be a big opportunity for PlayStation to get new users. But similarly, I think Microsoft could get new users in on the low end if indeed the Series S can run GTA 6 to at least acceptable degree. The jury's out on whether or not that'll happen, but I am intrigued to find out. You know, the little console that could.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah. I guess it all depends on whether or not, like, how much better is the Pro? What's the price of the Pro? You know, if it's significantly better, maybe a lot of people check it out. If it's cheap, maybe people get it. But if it's not and it's really expensive, then are a lot of people going to upgrade? You know, I don't know. It could just be for, you know, really hardcore PlayStation fans who want a better console and not necessarily because I have seen a lot of people are just moving to PC now. They're just like, you know what? I'm just spending my money and I'm just gonna buy a good PC and that's where I'm gonna go. PC gaming's expanding and thriving essentially.
Yeah. Like it's the only part of the PC market that's actually growing, and I often like as part of my job, I really try and like get myself out of the bubble, like people our age, and people who just exist in this world, like, oh, console gaming has to be a certain way, and we never think about what the next generation is interested in. So like I got some friends and their kids, and I always ask them like what they're interested in gaming, and a lot of them just see consoles as a boomer thing. They just think of PC as the place where you play games, and consoles are like for boomers, and old people like us, They don't really see consoles as something desirable. A lot of kids in Britain, at least, it really does seem that way, And that's because they're coming from iPad, They never really had console. They were all iPad kids growing up, and it was like, well, how can I play Roblox but better? The answer is generally PC. It's not Xbox, because you can't, you don't really. Roblox is a social experience. You need a keyboard really for it. Even Minecraft, like, is a better experience on PC because, again, social experience. So they move from iPad to PC. They don't move from iPad to a console. And then they've got a Steam account, and then they're locked in digitally via Steam, and then GG,
Yeah.
So,
Jay Rembert
that's why
says
Tencent's the biggest in the world without having any hardware, and that's why.
Jay Rembert says, does it matter that you sell 50 million consoles if only 2 to 3 million buy games? Huge disconnect with sales warriors.
Well, that's exactly it. Like a lot of people they buy the console and they only play Call of Duty, Fortnite, Minecraft, etc. They play the service games, and in that scenario, you might as well have just let them stay on PS4 and Xbox One, because all those games are still launching and they're all updated on those systems. So yeah, I mean, there is an argument to be made that the console industry is irrevocably changed, and the margins might be better if people just don't buy. For people who don't want to buy lots of games every year because they're just playing FIFA and Fortnite and Call of Duty, it might be better margins for those people to stay where they are, and not upgrade the console. And then the console would be better going to an enthusiast who will buy all those games and will subscribe to Game Pass. I think like one of the things we could see from the Game Pass deal with Activision, right? Because they've talked about how Game Pass is going to interact with Activision stuff, and at least for the time being, we're not going to get Diablo, Call of Duty, whatever on Game Pass, but we will eventually. But I think another thing you're going to see, Rand, is those perks, right? So like one thing right now is Amazon has a flat, pervasive deal with Blizzard for things like freebies through Amazon Prime on Twitch. So like just today, I got an email from Amazon. They were like, "Oh, you got a Prime drop for Diablo," and it was a horse. It was a skeletal horse, which looks really cool. And actually, I forgot about that. I'm gonna go and equip it. But yeah, that was a perk for Amazon having Amazon Prime. They announced today or yesterday that deal's coming to an end in March. So they're not going to get rid of those drops. So they're coming off Twitch, but where they're going to put those drops for Overwatch, Hearthstone, the free card packs for Hearthstone, and all that stuff, where they're going to go around, I tell you where they're going to go. They're going to go straight
Tell us, Jez,
into
tell
Xbox
us.
Game Pass Ultimate. Game Pass Ultimate, baby. Game Pass Ultimate. So that's one way they can start growing Game Pass Ultimate with people who do only play one game, is more perks, more stuff, more freebies. I think it's very successful on Amazon Prime, and
yeah, I think it
could
is
be
too.
very successful on Ultimate.
Stanley says, if Xbox launches in 2026, won't they just be selling to existing customers? Xbox needs to grow the base through games, not hardware.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly true. There's no point trying to sell consoles when you don't really have a huge amount of reasons to be selling them right now. The main reason people are playing on these systems is Call of Duty, Fortnite, and all that kind of stuff. That is gradually changing though, and I think it's going to completely change when GTA comes out. And we've seen like Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate's only on next gen systems, and that's like right at the top of the Xbox. That's right at the top of the Xbox, the store right now, which is amazing to see.
And they did come out and say it's not coming to Game Pass, right?
Yeah, it's not coming to Game Pass, and it's selling on the store. It's amazing to see a CRPG so high like that on the Xbox store. It warms my heart, Rand. It warms my heart, baby. But there'll be more games like that.
Is Xbox looking at that and be like, maybe we should give Pillars of Eternity a huge budget?
I would bloody well hope so, man. I would bloody well hope so. But I really do think Baldur's Gate is such an important game for people of our generation. Like the dark, mature game that goes really hard and leans into the fantasy in a Game of Thrones-esque kind of way. And like publishers shy away from that shit because they're like, oh god, we've got to make it appeal to as many people as possible. Gotta gun for that teen rating and stuff. Like Dragon Age Inquisition was pretty raunchy, man, if you play it. But I don't know why they shied away from all that stuff for a while. But now they're coming back to it. I think GTA will be like that as well. Like it'll be like, oh yeah, this sex sells. We forgot about this for a while, but maybe we should actually give this another look. But anyway, I digress. Man. Games are the most important thing. Of course they are. Like no one's suggesting they're not. But until you've got the games, it's kind of a moot point, right? But Microsoft's getting the games. I do wonder, like, what Blade people asked and begged Microsoft for a superhero game, for an answer to Spider-Man. Microsoft delivered. Yep. They gave us Blade, and I do wonder, like, how mature of a game is Blade going to be? Like,
I mean, they said mature, and they released some concept art, which I don't know, doesn't really mean much, right? I know people are like, "Oh, it should have been more bloody." Dude, it's concept art. What do you, like? It was funny because Infinite Umbra on the podcast yesterday was like, "I don't like his boots." It's like, bro, it's concept art. Who cares what his boots look like, right? I'm sure you'll have a whole bunch of costumes you can Blade can wear, right? Because it's going to be third person, so you can see your character. I can imagine there'll be a bunch of different outfits you can put him in, right? Whether outfits that you find or outfits that you can buy, and you can find something that you like. But you're right, like they were like, hey, we need a Marvel game. Okay, here's the Marvel games. Blade. Granted, Blade's not on the level of Spider-Man or whatever, but I think Blade makes sense for the team that pitched it. And I always said to you that I think Xbox would totally be behind licenses as long as the team that was making it had a plan and a pitch, right? And it seemed like the team and the leadership at Arkane Lyon was 100% on board, and they wanted to do this, and the pitch was great, and Marvel's like, absolutely. And, we went through the whole Blade logo drama. What's going on with that? And they finally uploaded it to the Xbox YouTube channel with the Xbox logo, so it's there. I still don't see it on the PlayStation YouTube channel. I don't see OD anywhere. I mean, look, it's pretty safe to say I think that's an Xbox exclusive. Is it confirmed? No. But does it need to be confirmed? Because the way I look at it is like any game that Xbox is making is exclusive unless they tell you it's not. Like the Quake games, the Quake remasters. Boom, they put those out, and the first thing they said, it's coming to every platform. They made sure to say. Otherwise, like, unless they tell you immediately, I think it's just like everything's exclusive. Nah, I mean, like, things could change 10 years from now, and they could be putting their games everywhere else, which is I think they probably would want to do, or at least Satya would like to do. Remember, because Satya, under oath, said that he hates exclusives. He would want everything everywhere because that's, his business. Excel's everywhere, Office 365's everywhere. Anybody can get Azure, but the business of gaming involves exclusives. I mean, Satya even said the market leader does them, so we have to, right? Yeah. So it's all about making your ecosystem bigger and bigger and bigger and expanding outwards. And, consoles one aspect of it. So you have the Xbox consoles. You have PC, you have mobile, and all these other things to do. And Jez is right. Like, the Xbox console hardware is probably not selling, definitely not selling to what I thought it should be. Like, I thought it would easily, well, not easily, but I thought it would outsell the Xbox One, and it's not. Simply because, like, I thought Xbox would have better games this gen, and I think they are. And the Series S, I thought, like, having a cheaper priced Xbox would do wonders for them. And maybe it has, and it was the Series X that didn't do well, but it's behind the Xbox One at this point. But then you look at the revenue that Microsoft is making, and you look at like their monthly active users, and they're up, and the revenue's up. It's like, well, you can understand why they always say like the console's not the most important thing anymore, right? It's everything. Yeah. It is like the baseline for the platform, because I think console still spends the most money. The most engaged users are on the platform still, and that's why I always sort of think they'll make a console as long as it makes sense. As long as those people who spend the most money are there, you make a console for those people, right? But now you add ABK and all that stuff on it, and it's like you add the mobile money. You're going to be approaching Sony's level of revenue with essentially maybe anywhere between half or a third of their console user base. You know what I mean? It's like, that's impressive. Now, granted, you had to pay for it. You had to buy Activision Blizzard to reach that level, but that's like business strategy, right? And that's when you compare Xbox's strategy to PlayStation, which we'll talk about when we talk about Last of Us, but yeah. Nerds and Other Legends says, do you think Sarah Bond is pro new hardware? Well, I don't know.
Well, that's
you would think so. She's in charge of it
now.
Yeah, she's in charge of it. Yeah, so I guess we'll find out.
Microsoft hired a new head of hardware this year as well. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I'm so bad with names, but I met her in LA this year, and she, we talked a little bit about hardware, and a lot about the Asus ROG Ally actually, because that was just launching at the time. Microsoft's super excited about ROG Ally. They love that thing. They absolutely love that thing. Which might be a hint about where they want to go with some of this stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, like, even when we're talking about hardware for 2026 or 2027, do they do here's the console and here's the Series S? Do they do the 2 SKU again, or they do 2 SKUs but one's a console and one's a handheld?
A PC handheld. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think they do?
I think if they do a handheld, it will be PC handheld. I don't think they'll make a Xbox OS version of that handheld.
Okay.
I think because I don't know if that's just not possible for some reason, but I do think like because these chips, like, they're really low power. They are specifically designed to be like to run in a device that small on a battery. So the Z1 Extreme. Like you can run games at like 8 watts, which is nuts, right? And I think the Steam Deck can go even lower, like 5 or something. It's crazy. So they are kind of designed for that world, and I don't think Xbox is capable of doing that at such low amounts of power. But I can see them doing a PC handheld, with PC Gamepass bundled in, and maybe it's based on the a special chip partnership with AMD or something like that. Maybe they partner up with ARM for it. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like Intel just announced a bunch of new chips as well. Like the competition in chips is really going crazy again because of AI as well. Because lots of companies want to make chips for AI, and Nvidia, the CUDA core is just cleaning up house right now. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of things they can do, because it's like they could do that. I mean, we even saw I saw your article from about Tim Stewart, or that kind of referenced the website, I forget, but it was basically you might be able to watch an ad to get access to Game Pass on mobile or whatever. Like
they were talking about again, this was to investors. They were talking about like there might be a tier of Game Pass which is free, and you view an ad.
See,
and
investors love that shit. Investors wait, there'll be a tier that's free but that's ad supported, because all the streaming services now have ad supported tiers, and I think they're the most successful ones, because people obviously want to get a deal. They usually get the cheapest thing, and it's like, okay, well, this would be unique for the gaming space, because there isn't something like it yet, right? We don't have have something where it's like, play this game, but you have to watch an ad, because then you could essentially sell ads, and that's a whole other business that's really successful. And you don't really know, like, I would think the hardcore console gamer and the PC gamer are probably against that. If you said, oh, well, you could play this for free, but you'd have to watch ads, they'd be like, hell no. But I mean, that's how mobile operates. And Microsoft has big plans for mobile, so maybe that's how they get in. Because I always was like, I don't know if people are going to want to subscribe to Game Pass on mobile. It's too much. I mean, they went to the race of the bottom on there. But if you had somehow like, no, you could play these games as long as you watch ads at specific intervals, maybe that's the way to do it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's the code strings I saw recently. Like, I saw these code strings that were shared to me by a security researcher friend of mine. And it was like, do you know what this is? And it was like, it was like earned 15 minutes of Game Pass or something, like a code string, right? And I didn't really get what it was at the time. But then like Tweaktown put out that article analyzing or transcribing what Tim Stewart said. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what that was. Suddenly it made sense to me, right? Like the light bulb went off. So clearly I think they're doing this because the code's literally in the operating system.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if there's... Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I got disconnected from Discord, so I don't think you guys can hear Jez. But I think you guys can still hear me. Hopefully Discord comes back, but... Yeah, I've lost the Discord to the Xbox 2. It's, I got the notification here that essentially... the Xbox, because I saw it because it happened to the Xbox Era one and it happened to another one I'm in. But yeah, I've lost the connection to Jez through the podcast. But I'm here. Can you guys hear me? Because you guys should still hear me because I'm obviously broadcasting through OBS. It's just that you won't be able to hear Jez. So I'm the only one here. So hopefully it comes back. I guess I will. I guess I'll just have to keep on talking. So Discord completely has an outage? Okay. Oh, Discord's having a major outage. Of course they would while we're doing a podcast. Wix says I don't need Jez anyways. Yeah, do we need Jez? But all my notes are on Discord though. All of my little topics I had written down are on Discord. Anyways, the ad thing is interesting because I think that's a way you can maybe get people in mobile to try something out because that's how they're used to. They're used to ads anyway on mobile, right? And we know Microsoft has big plans for mobile. I even still think you could offer a cheaper version of Game Pass on console that is ad tiered. I still think you could offer something like $5 on console to access the whole Game Pass library. But then at certain points you have to like watch an ad. I still think that's something they can do, but I think it makes the most sense for mobile. Wick says you don't need notes, Rand. You have a great memory. True, but I have it down there to remind me to essentially talk about some things. And come on, hurry up, Discord. See, for me, it's just all my other servers are up, except for the Xbox 2 Discord server. Huh. Interesting. It's the only one that's having problems. Daniel says, I hate ads on mobile. It's a horrible idea. True, but that's how pretty much everyone plays their mobile games. It's ads. I mean, that's how a lot of people watch YouTube. I mean, I'm subscribed to YouTube Premium, but, they run ads all the time, and some people have no issue with it, right? So, I also just lost another server, so I guess it's really going down. So I could see this working out on the mobile end probably more successfully than working out on console. But yeah. And I know we talked a little bit about the Blade stuff. The idea of like, hey, is it exclusive? We talked about that at length, but it was interesting because we got some quotes from the big executive at Disney, right? Okay, I just got something from Jez. What is this? I don't know. Jez wants me to join some other call, but I'm not really sure how this is going to work. So I don't know if I should just stay in here and just hope Discord comes back. Because if I jump in here with Jez, I don't know what that's going to do. Yeah. Damn technical issues. So when we were talking about the Blade thing, we were talking about the Axios did an interview with the Disney executive, which basically was the first time we got even any sort of information regarding about the exclusivity of Indiana Jones and why they decided to change it. Right? We didn't even know it was exclusive until the FTC case. Like, because if you look at Bethesda's like announcements, they most of the time they don't announce things with release dates or like with logos. You look at the original Deathloop announcement in 2019, it didn't have any logos. Same thing for Ghostwire Tokyo, Elder Scrolls 6, Starfield, right? None of them had anything. None of them had any logos. Hi-Fi Rush did and Redfall did because they were at an Xbox show, so we didn't know what to expect from Indiana Jones. But we did get some, and it's funny because people were like, well, Blade has to be multi-platform, you know, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, is Indiana Jones a bigger IP than Blade? Why would they be okay with Indiana Jones being multi-platform? Hold on. Jeez. I'm getting messages from Jez now. Hold on, Jez. Send it. Jez sends me a link on my WhatsApp on my phone, and he's like, try this on your PC, but I don't have WhatsApp on my PC, so that's going to be really hard to do there, Jez. You need to send it to me on my PC so I can actually click on it. I don't have WhatsApp on my PC. Oh, the server's back up, Jez. Just join again. Yeah, Discord's back up for me. Just rejoin. Let me get Jez back in here. Let me just text him on WhatsApp. Rejoin Discord. There we go. Rejoin Discord. And hopefully he comes back. Tech troubleshooting in real time, yeah. But yeah, I only have one server that's out right now, and the Xbox 2 one's back. So, there we go. Jez is here. You're back.
Is that the first time that's happened in the middle of the show before?
I think so. I think it was, yes.
That's so annoying. But technology, eh?
Technology, live podcasting, it's great. Because normally it's YouTube that screws up and not Discord. But this time it was Discord.
Interesting.
And you were like, hey, join this thing. I don't have WhatsApp on my PC, so you would have to send that through another channel. But yeah, I was going to talk about the Nintendo thing, Jez. Or actually, we still have one more super chat that I missed out. I want to get this. Wick says, you tried the new Game Pass app on Quest yet, Jez? Because they finally brought the Game Pass stuff to, MetaQuest?
I have not. I do have a MetaQuest. It's in the drawer, gathering dust, like most people's MetaQuests, I think.
Really? Because Asgard 2 just came out and is getting ridiculous scores? Got like a 10 from IGN? It's like the new standard for VR games or whatever?
Yeah, I bet it sells not very well, though. But, I don't know. I'll probably try it out. I think Tom Warren's got a video up for it, but yeah, it's just not fun wearing it, man. It's not fun.
Fair enough. Fresco says, what happened to Xbox potentially using Ori and Cloud Tech from Bethesda to help with xCloud?
Nobody. I mean, people speculated that they could do that, but they just didn't for whatever reason. I think, maybe just it doesn't work at scale or something. But yeah, it doesn't seem like that's the thing that's going to happen for whatever reason.
Doesn't seem like it. We have Brian saying, I think people will be surprised when Blade comes out, not like Spider-Man, but its own thing entirely, and that's a good thing. Yeah, I think people really like Blade. One of the reasons I mentioned this yesterday in the show, but one of the reasons why I'm excited about Arkane working on Blade isn't so much that it's Blade, right? Because I don't really have that strong of attachment to him. Like, I like the Wesley Snipes movies, but I'm thinking about Arkane taking the next step, right? We always talk about studios essentially improving, taking that next step, whether it's from becoming like a AA studio to a AAA studio, or becoming like, a really good studio to one of the best studios in the world. Like, we have Playground Games making Forza Horizon, right? They took Forza Horizon, they transitioned it into being one of the best racing studios in the world. And now they're also making Fable. And if they could pull that off, then they would have transitioned and stepped up their game to being one of the best studios in the world. Just cut off the racing aspect, right? And I look at Insomniac and the work they were doing before Spider-Man, and I feel like the investment that Sony put into them to make that Spider-Man game paid off in a way that Insomniac became a bigger and better studio. They started releasing more projects. Their games became like higher quality. They just became like a better studio overall, right?
I agree with
and they were always sort of, they weren't like low key like Arkane was. Insomniac had name recognition. But even on PlayStation, when they were doing Resistance, people like Killzone more than Resistance. Like, they were always kind of like, like the second cousin a little bit, right? Because they were like second party, where the other ones were first party. But once they did Spider-Man, it was like they just took that next step. They stepped up their game. And I sort of feel like it could do the same for Arkane, because I think Xbox really needs a Marvel game, right? You're going to be trying to sell this game to consumers.
There's also a movie coming out, right?
Well, there's a movie coming out. We always talk about how do you sell Game Pass, and it's like, well, you need bigger IPs to do that. A Marvel IP would essentially fit that bill. So I feel like you're going to invest in Arkane more so than you would do if they were just doing Deathloop 2, which is a sort of known commodity. Like, you sort of know, like, oh, okay, we're doing Deathloop 2. You know what to expect. You know what you should budget it at because you saw the first one. But with Blade, it's like there's potential for Blade to do for Xbox what Spider-Man did for PlayStation, maybe on a lesser level. So it's like, I think you give the game a bigger budget. I think you invest in Arkane. You hire top-tier talent, because this is going to be a showpiece for the Xbox platform and Game Pass. And I think you want to put your best foot forward. And I feel like since Arkane's always kind of been, their games are appreciated and they're kind of like cult classics, I feel like this is the chance for them to come out of the shadows and being like, this is who we are. And that they'll take that next leap and become a studio that everybody looks at and be like, yo, what's their next game? That's at least my hope for Arkane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. And one thing that was sort of encouraging for me to see was they were kind of like, they were talking about, that Disney dude was talking about in his pitch, not his pitch, he did an interview with Axios, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna bring that up so we get his quotes here. But yeah, go ahead.
And he was talking about like the passion of the team and stuff. So I kind of feel like the passion for Spider-Man probably drove Insomniac to a next level, right? And they also didn't necessarily have to worry about building their own universe because the lore is already there for them to play with, right? And I think when you're passionate about something to that degree, and you also want to do a good job for Disney, right? I suppose. So yeah, I would hope that it materializes into something really memorable and does take them to that next level.
Yeah, because if you're looking at like all the games on Xbox's upcoming list, which ones have the potential to drive engagement, drive, console sales, quote unquote, drive Game Pass subscriptions. I mean, you probably would say Elder Scrolls 6 naturally, right? But that's further on the horizon. You would probably say Fable potentially could be something like that. Maybe even a Perfect Dark if it's done well. But really, like, Blade stands out. I know, like, Hellblade 2 is coming, but Hellblade 1 wasn't really that popular of a game to the point where it's like people are like super anticipating the sequel. And I'm talking about games that are going to essentially like be talked about in a way that like the demographics are a bit more spread out. Where I think Hellblade 2 really kind of just is going to target like a specific demo, where Blade I think targets a hell of a lot more. And that's something that you like the marketing for that would have to be like pretty high. I mean, it's a Marvel game. Come on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we got
Disney will probably provide some of that marketing as well.
Well, yeah. So we got Steven Totillo, who actually got to talk to the Disney guy. His name being, let's see, who'd he talk to?
Disney guy.
Sean
Disney guy.
Shapto, who's the company's longtime head of gaming, and he got to ask him about renegotiating Indiana Jones, right? Because when Bethesda first did it, it was multi-platform, and this is what he said: with Xbox still being one of the bigger marketplaces for games, we didn't feel like we were going to be overly exclusionary. We felt like it's still going to reach a broad set of folks, and we felt financially and strategically for the game that made sense at the time. So I think,
almost apologetic.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's almost apologetic, but I think
made sense at the time.
Well, it made sense at the time of negotiations.
And now it doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't think that's what he means. I mean, I think he says sense strategically and financially at the time they renegotiated, right? Not like, at the time. Like, I think that's what he's talking about
and
here.
And now we regret it.
You think they'll regret it? Because I don't.
It's going to come to PC, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's the thing he's talking about is, like, Xbox is still one of the bigger game marketplaces, and we aren't being really exclusionary because it's also going to be day one on PC, and it's going to be on mobile and all these other... It's going to be on Game Pass, so you have the potential to reach more people than if you just launched on a single platform, like PlayStation,
because they don't do PC. Talking about how Brazil is one of the biggest markets for xCloud direct on the TV as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, but, Brazil's also a place where you can just raise the price of the console and just get away with it, not say anything about it, but, what have you.
If you got a Samsung Smart TV, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
just
suppose.
play it on there, baby.
I suppose. What else we got here? We have Xbox's secret weapon in Japan, Jez.
Ooh, Xbox's secret weapon?
Yeah.
Whatever could that be?
Because I saw, there's a lot of people that kind of were poo-pooing this a little bit. Essentially...
That's a shock.
I know, right?
I'm shocked, Rand.
Xbox has...
What did they have to say? What did the champions of...
Well, you wrote an article about this, so you probably know more about it than me.
Report the news about it. Yeah.
Right. So, Menakato, who's a former PlayStation executive, does she run Xbox in Japan?
She runs publishing relationships for Xbox in Japan, yeah.
Right. So, we've seen recently, in recent years, Xbox really get the support of a lot of different Japanese companies. Sega being the one where you can look at that partnership and you can be like, wow, Xbox and Sega... They're working hard together.
They love each other.
They're bringing stuff to Game Pass. They're bringing Persona games to Xbox and Game Pass. The Yakuza stuff, right? They're working together.
They're building games in Azure.
Yeah, they're working on like that Super game, which is all a bunch of the other like the Sega announcements, like Jet Set Radio and all that stuff. Like they are super tight, right? Capcom is also, they're working with Xbox. They brought some of their games to Game Pass, which is, really cool to see. The one that holdout was Square Enix, but Phil was on stage, new CEO, shaking hands, Final Fantasy 14 coming over, new Mana game actually hitting Xbox. Of course, everybody's still waiting for the Final Fantasy games, and who knows if those will or will not. I think maybe eventually they will. But
I believe they will.
Mina Kato, who is in charge of the Japanese gaming partnerships for Xbox, she's been meeting with all the different Japanese companies over there and basically telling them how if they want to grow, they can't just release on PlayStation. Basically said Japanese publishers will definitely need Xbox in expanding their business. It would be difficult to do that just with PlayStation. We face a challenge, and that means there are still a lot of things we can and should change. So is this the right way to go? Basically going to these Japanese publishers and developers and being like, hey, you need us to grow in this global marketplace. Because you're not going to grow only on PlayStation. Is that you think maybe a convincing pitch to them?
I think potentially, yeah. And I think there's a caveat in there. They're probably saying like you can reach a bigger audience for the brand's awareness of your stuff and potentially sell more copies of your games on PlayStation as well if you launch into Game Pass. Launch your game into Game Pass with us. Like if they're smaller publishers, like a lot of maybe some of those niche Japanese games. Like Visions of Mana, for example. Like Miles is like our bro Miles Dompier. Get happy as Larry with his announcement of Visions of Mana coming to Xbox. He's been campaigning for that hard, but I think a lot of people probably don't know what that game is or what that franchise is, to be honest. So like Dragon Quest in the West. Like Dragon Quest is a huge franchise. I'm not saying it's not. But I don't think in the West it has the same sort of cachet as maybe a Final Fantasy does. So, like, how do you grow the footprint of that franchise? And they did put Dragon Quest, the last one, into Game Pass, which was, it did launch a lot later than it did on other platforms, sure. But I have to believe, like, that probably did pretty well in Game Pass, I wouldn't imagine. Like, it was one of the first games on xCloud that was actually really good for xCloud, being turn-based and all that kind of stuff. And it was one of the few games that were turn-based back then when xCloud was quite rough. It probably wasn't like a huge amount of people. Like, again, it is xCloud we're talking about here. But hopefully that's like something to point to and be like, look, as we grow Game Pass, like a lot of these turn-based games that you're producing, like, like Octopath Traveler. Octopath Traveler was in Game Pass too. I think that was on xCloud as well, if I remember correctly. Then the sequel never actually came to Xbox because, like I reported, something was functionally wrong between Square Enix and Microsoft. And, someday, maybe in the future, the reasons for that will come out. But like I know some people online were not happy about my reporting on this, and they were like, oh no, they just don't like Xbox because Xbox has no console footprint. But no, there's something went down between Square Enix and Microsoft that sort of soured relationships for a little while. But now, changing CEO, changing approach, and and a better relationship in general is hopefully leading to some cool stuff for PlayStation Japan. So I don't think it's hyperbole when she says you can't grow your business without Xbox. Because I think like if you do want to grow your business and you do have a game that could potentially be everywhere. There's nothing proprietary about PlayStation that precludes other systems from having their stuff ported from PlayStation. You need it to be on everywhere, and I think like putting it on Xbox and putting it on PC is obviously one really great way to grow. And in a world where the console market is pretty much static, and I don't think PlayStation's stealing market share from Xbox necessarily. I think they did in the last gen, but I don't think they are really now. It's just people. These are the install bases we've got to play with. So in a world where the install bases aren't really growing, and like the people are sticking on their Xbox One and stuff, and maybe they'll move to Xbox, the next Xbox with GTA or something down the line, or when Xbox starts having like good reasons to upgrade, Xbox will grow too. And then at that point, it's kind of like, well, why aren't you putting your games on Xbox?
Well, yeah. Here's what Bloomberg says. It says Kato immediately becomes one of Microsoft's highest-profile Xbox executives in Japan, and her main role will be to steer dialogue with local creators and spearhead new initiatives. She says she took on the job because she wanted to better bridge the gap between Japan and the rest of the world. She's also working alongside Xbox President Sarah Bond, one of a number of senior female executives at Microsoft, which Kato said, quote, was a surprise that made me happy when I joined the company. Among her duties, Kato is having daily conversations with local game studios and sharing feedback to Microsoft headquarters in Washington about topics as basic as developer documentation translation or as large-scale as global promotional campaigns to boost new titles. So here you go. Someone working hand-in-hand with Sarah Bond. How many times have we heard about how Sarah Bond's been instrumental in getting things done, whether it's in regards to the ABK stuff or in regards to like partnerships with like Sega? Sarah Bond's name constantly comes up all the time, you know?
Like Sarah Bond works incredibly hard. Like every time I see Sarah at an event, like it's just crazy how hard she works, you know. And I really hope she's getting a good break in this holiday season because I think she's more than earned it this year. But she was like Phil, you know, traveling all over the world, meeting all the developers, attending the court case hearings, you know, traveling from country to country to country, you know, on top of like, you know, your obligations to family and all that kind of stuff, you know, and the community as well. It's like doing the community stuff too, which Xbox is really good at. Like all the execs are on Twitter and they're always doing fun stuff with the community. And Sarah's been posting like all kinds of stuff about like top quotes from the community this month and stuff like that, and for Christmas and that. So it's but yeah, like on the subject of Mina Kato, if I pronounced her name correctly, probably haven't, but I've only heard good things about her as well. And I was speaking to some Xbox exec the other day about Mina Kato, and to quote them, she's brilliant. You know, pretty flat statement about it, and they'd spent a lot of time strategizing over Japan over the summer, and you know, and what that's going to look like, what Xbox in Japan is going to look like down the line. So I'm like really confident about Xbox in Japan. It's why I say things like I'm pretty sure Xbox will get Final Fantasy. I'm pretty sure they will get all these holdouts and all this kind of stuff, and it's just a matter of dev time at this point. You know, I genuinely believe that.
Well, yeah, and I think, do you think it helps that she comes from PlayStation and could basically go and tell these people like, hey, you want to grow your business, you can't just rely on them. You got to go everywhere. You got to go global. You got to go PC. You got to work with us. You got to market with us, right? You can't just be exclusionary. Yeah, I think it's probably I think it's probably, yeah. I think she'll probably make a lot of changes, and it'll be stuff we'll see down the road. Because I mean, I don't know. Like I said, if you would have said to me in 2013 or like even last gen, like Sega would be lockstep and key with Xbox, the Atlas games would be like, they've made such strides in Japan, and considering like their presence there is small, right? I mean, it's higher than the Xbox One, but not that high. You would think the Japanese developers would basically start turning their backs on the company, and that hasn't been the case. So it's like, yeah, they said they were going to make Japan a priority, and we even questioned, you know, as like a devil's advocate thing, like, is that something you even really need to do? Should you focus on other areas and just let Japan be Japan? And I think the thing was like, no, you sort of need this because it does, you know, you let your competitors have de facto exclusives, you know, and you look at PlayStation and they've been basically carried by Insomniac and Square Enix this whole gen for the most part. You know, you remove Square Enix, if those games aren't exclusive, their lineup doesn't look as good or compelling. But yeah, I mean, PlayStation made the deals they had to at the time to make their platform appealing. So kudos to them for making those business deals. But I don't know, were those deals beneficial to Square Enix? Maybe not. Because to me, it looks like Final Fantasy's regressed. And Persona's exploding. I think they just announced something about Persona 5 and like 10 million sales or whatever recently.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if that's games that had the Persona 5 moniker on it, or moniker on it. You
Yeah.
know,
I keep looking at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth though, and it looks so
it
good.
does.
It
It
just
looks
looks
incredible.
so good. I like the Red 13, and they showed off like Cosmo Canyon a little bit today, and it's just like, God, this is what I wanted the first game to be. I wanted all those locations, not just And I realized how huge of a game that would have had to have been, but it really does feel like, okay, we built the first game we built the engine, and now we've got it in place. We'll go hard now and really give the rest of the game the overhaul that we wanted to do. And actually, really, like when it first came out, I was kind of like, I clowned on the combat system a little bit, like didn't like it, but I played it again on my Rogue Ally recently, and I was like, actually, I actually do kind of like this combat system. I thought overall it's a pretty good compromise between like tactical sort of gameplay, and then like you got the hack and slash stuff if you want it. You can always just switch to a caster as well, and switch between the characters and stuff. It kind of felt like a better version of Final Fantasy 15's combat system. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. But yeah, Xbox's fortunes in Japan are looking a lot brighter than they did before. We just kind of have to wait for the developers to catch up now.
Yeah.
It seems like the right relationships are getting in place and all that kind of stuff. But there was this weird thing this week, Rand, where Team 17 said that they hadn't released a game on no, that was it. They hadn't released Blasphemous in Japan
because of local regulations, right?
On Xbox due to local legislation, which is so weird because it's like, hang on, you released it on PlayStation, so why aren't you releasing it on Xbox in Japan? Like, what local legislation are you talking about here? Very strange indeed.
Very
I can't help
strange.
but feel like there might be mistaken there somehow. But why would PlayStation have exclusive rights to release a game due to local laws? That doesn't sound like a very open market to me, especially when did America and Japan ever get that trade deal worked out?
I don't know if they did, but I remember when people at the U.S. like Senate sent those letters. All of a sudden, like the next day, Japan approved the deal or whatever it was, right? The ABK deal. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know whether they have or not, but we do have a question here from Elijah, who's been a member for 15 months. He says, Jez, what exactly was the thing that went down between Microsoft and Square? What could sour a relationship that badly? P.S. Hope you guys are well. Hope you're well. And I don't think Jez is going to answer that question, or at least he can't answer that question.
I can't say for a little while. I'll say someday, but not in the near term.
No, people had asked us about 2024 lineup, Jez. And, we'd mentioned, like, hey, Avowed, Hellblade, Aura, History Untold, Towerborn, they're all dated. Matt Booty said they have more. Maybe a potential Gears of War collection, like Special Nick has been saying. Forza Horizon 6 could come out. This would be 3 years. Forza Horizon 5, 2021, could release next year. Is that a possibility? Are there other games that could essentially show up? But we have, at least according to LinkedIn, people that like really just look at that to get any sort of news and leaks from stuff. I'm not exactly sure who LinkedIn it came from. I don't have that information right on here with me. And so, but it basically, I think it was like a producer at Xbox who was working on some franchises. And one of the franchises he was working on was, he had like listed all the franchises he was working on in the years that they came out. And he was working on like Towerborn and South of Midnight. And he had both Towerborn and South of Midnight listed as 2024 games. And we had seen South of Midnight show up for the first time last year, or this year at E3. So I'm wondering, could South of Midnight release next year? What do you think?
Maybe.
What are the odds? Odds for you on that one?
Well, it's been a long time since we've heard anything from Compulsion, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wrapped up their work on We Happy Few a long time ago, and the documents for South of Midnight that I shared a long time ago, they were from like 2019, I want to say, maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly the date for that stuff was, but it was a long time ago. So I feel like they probably had enough time. So maybe it is next year. Maybe we get a launch date at the Developer Direct or something.
This is what I had heard and I'm sure you were there at E3 this past year. They had a media event right after the showcase, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much, I believe they said that the games that they showed might come out in the next 18 months, right?
Yeah.
So that would include South of Midnight. But they didn't date it because they're not sure, right? You know, development could be tricky.
You never know in development.
You never know in development. But they sort of showed the games and they said
they've been burned by saying
by themselves by saying everything's coming in the next 12 months like they did the year before. But they did tell people at the media event that these games could all come in the next 18 months. But they're all like the ones that are dated are the ones that like okay you can expect these essentially. The other ones like Fable and South of Midnight maybe not. But you're looking at this like listing from LinkedIn from a producer, and it's like, well, maybe it's possible. Maybe South of Midnight, slots in there towards the end of the year. I mean, I don't think it would be like the beginning of the year, but maybe. And I don't even know what type of game it is, really. I mean, I guess we know. Like, I guess it's because we haven't seen it, so we don't know.
It's an action adventure.
It's an action adventure, but we don't know the length, right? We don't know any sort of that stuff. So, yeah, I guess it's, and even when you talk about, like, should they release it? Should they hold? You look at what happened in 2022, and it was a disaster for Xbox because they didn't have any games to push. They had to push Redfall and Starfield to the next year, but they had like nothing else. And from the leaked emails from the FTC, Phil said it was a disaster and that they need to be more aware that they have to have stuff, right? So it's like I wonder if it's one of those things where Xbox, and this is more for like a general conversation about Xbox and their studios going forward, is that they have so many games from so many studios and there's so many projects ranging from Xbox Game Studios to Bethesda to Activision Blizzard, right? But there's only so much time and space in each year to release certain stuff. And I wonder if one of those things where you look at like South of Midnight, who maybe can release next year, but you look at like what is releasing in 2024 and you say, okay, is that enough? Maybe you're cautious and you hold it for 2025 because you're not sure what exactly 2025 is going to look at. So you essentially hold it so you don't run into a situation like they did with 2022 where they had to delay stuff, but then they had nothing else. Right? I think Xbox is going to have more of those conversations being like, is this something we should release now? Or is this something we should hold on to for next year so we have more stuff? Like, if you're releasing 7 games in 2024, do you need an 8th? Like, should you just hold on to that game and release it at the beginning of 2025 simply so you have something? I know Nintendo's notorious for holding on to games, right? Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that's something Xbox is going to have to do more of as they keep on going, as you're going to have more and more of these projects where it's like, all right, well, there's probably going to be a big Call of Duty game at the end of the year that's going to suck up a lot of air. Do you want to launch? Like, for instance...
And that might be a really good Call of Duty next year.
Yeah, but like, for instance, if there's a new Forza Horizon next year, it's on a 3-year cycle, they move to that. But if it's kind of ready at the end of the year, is that even something you want to release next to a Call of Duty? Or would you rather like, all right, you know what? We'll actually hold it.
Well, you're going to release it sometime.
Well, no, but it's like, do you hold it
every year?
Right. Well, no. I mean, I don't think they're going to be releasing Call of Duties every year. I think they're going to. I think they're going to.
I think they are.
You think they are?
It's a ritual, bro.
Yeah, but judging from what happened with this year's Call of Duty, I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think they can do it.
Maybe
they need to make changes. They need to either like get more studios on it or something because.
Changes.
I don't know. It's just something.
Maybe.
It's something I look at with Xbox with all the games they have potentially all coming. That there's just not enough time in the year to do it all. So like I think they will have to think about holding stuff.
I think they will. Yeah, I think maybe. But I also think like we're not in that situation right now where we want Xbox to be holding things.
No, that is true. No, we're not in that situation yet.
We're not quite there yet.
But I'm sure that's something that Matt Booty is probably looking at with all the stuff going on. There's like,
Well, I have to wonder, like, if they're holding the games, do they move on to a new project, or do they make those games even better? You know, because especially games like, you know, if you got State of Decay ready, and maybe you want to hold State of Decay, do you like okay, we'll hold State of Decay and add a whole new feature to it, or we'll add like a whole extra biome to it, or something like that, right? Because you have to wonder, like, imagine if Halo Infinite had been delayed an extra year and launched with a coherent live service straight out of the gate. Would the narratives be any different now, or would it be a case of like, oh god, it was delayed forever and it's still not good enough? You know, could Halo have extracted a win by having another year of delays, or would everyone just have been mad at it anyway? You know, it's always kind of like what if scenario with some of this stuff.
It's even to the point you're even considering holding on to stuff because they have so much stuff. Whereas before, it's like, no, just release it because we need it, right? But I would imagine that is a conversation that happens because they need to make sure a year like 2022 never happens again, and they need to make sure that they have, okay, are we meeting our goals of one big game a quarter? And if we are, okay, well, we're going to make sure when you hit it next year, we might have to hold this game. Like, is Forza Horizon 6, if it's ready, fall of 2024 to go alongside new Call of Duty, do we release it? Or do we like, all right, you know what, just release Forza Horizon 6 spring of 2020 the following year? Is that just a better way? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's only something that you can have when you have a dearth of content that is coming up, right? So
I don't think Call of Duty matters though, because it is a multi-platform. So it's not like Call of Duty will cannibalize sales necessarily of a South of Midnight or something, because South of Midnight serves a different purpose. It's like it's your Game Pass, and we expect Call of Duty will be on Game Pass at some point, but at least for the near term, like at least next year, I don't think you hold off South of Midnight just because of Call of Duty. Like, I think they serve different purposes, different audiences, and especially in a world where Call of Duty is all about getting that PlayStation money. You know.
Yeah,
it's a weird and different way of thinking about Microsoft's strategy, because it is Call of Duty is about PlayStation. You know, it's about selling microtransactions to PlayStation gamers, and that's the business there. Obviously, Xbox too, but you're going to sell way more microtransactions on PlayStation than you are on Xbox.
You
know?
Yeah. Well, speaking of PlayStation, Naughty Dog canceled the game.
No.
Yeah,
Tell us about this.
Naughty Dog canceled Last of Us Factions, or as they called it, Last of Us Online. And I have to hand it to Naughty Dog. They are the masters of PR. Because this was exquisitely crafted to make people say to themselves, actually, this is better. Actually, this is okay. Actually, I'm fine with this. Actually, I'm good with them wasting 4 years of time and promising this game and not delivering. Actually, this is totally smart, right? And what I mean by that is they go on in this article to talk about, like, hey, we made the incredibly difficult decision to stop making development on The Last of Us Online. And they don't really talk about like any sort of, they don't say anything bad about the game. They don't say, hey, we couldn't really find the sweet spot, or we really couldn't, we just couldn't nail the monetization, right? It wasn't like, oh, the game just didn't come together. They basically said, hey, it was a choice between becoming a fully live service studio and making the single player games that you love. And you know what? It worked. It worked. Because I've never seen people online basically give so much rope to a studio. Like, Naughty Dog gets so much of the benefit of the doubt over the years and years because, you know, they make amazing single player experiences, Last of Us Part 2 and all the Uncharted games, right? They're the template of all the PlayStation exclusives. Like, they're all just Last of Us in different forms, essentially. Sad dad, right? So, finally, they were going to do this Last of Us multiplayer, and it was supposed to be part of Last of Us Part 2, and then it wasn't, because they were like, well, our ambitions got the best of us and the scope got out of control. So instead of making the mode that a lot of fans wanted, like, we're going to make this its own separate thing, right? And then we heard the reports that Bungie came in and was like, Bungie was like, this ain't good enough. Nobody's going to play this for more than a month. And it was kind of shut down. It was kind of put on ice after Bungie came in to look at other people's games that they essentially canceled, right? But yeah, so they go on to say, in ramping up for full production, Jez, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So we had two paths in front of us. Become a solely live service game studio, which is like, oh, that's a bad word. That's horrible. A solely live service game? Oh, that's the devil, right? Or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. Like, it is a expertly crafted PR piece to turn opinion from being disappointed and upset that Naughty Dog wasted all this time and all these resources to essentially being like, actually, this is good. Actually, I'm happy this was canceled. You know what I mean?
I've literally seen people saying that I'm happy this was cancelled. I literally heard that today.
Yes.
And I've also seen people say, oh, this is why Halo's bad now, because all they care about is the live service, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it is amazing PR. It
is amazing PR. And you know what? I've seen a lot of journalists out there in the media, the San Fran cabal, like, just eat this up. Because, as I've always said, I don't think a lot of the people in the media even play multiplayer. So, like, those people are probably like, yeah, you know what? I didn't want a Naughty Dog multiplayer game. I hate live services. So for them to say, you actually, you know, we don't want to become what the, you know, what the journalists hate, right? We're going to go back to what we do and what we do really good. And so everybody's like, yay, this is amazing. You know, like, it is. Look, number one, none of your fans, like, even asked for you to make a live service Last of Us game, period. Like, that is something, like, you decided to do on your own because, as you said, we just couldn't fit in Last of Us Part 2. Our ambitions were too grand. We're going to make a standalone game. But, like, none of your fans were even asking for that. All they wanted was their Last of Us Factions mode in their Last of Us 2 game, right? And then suddenly, years later, you suddenly come to the realization that this was going to take all your studio's resources to actually make a successful live service game? It took you this long of time to come to realization, even though there's examples all over the industry of, like, hey, this is how you're going to do it if you do it well. Like, it took you this long to realize that, right? It's kind of like, at some point, it was just, you want to talk about, like, bad management or whatever, like, you're talking about this, right? Because then, instead of making it just a singular mode for the game, you then spent all this time and money building something that eventually you came to realize you just couldn't do. And now, it's on the back burner. Now it's completely canceled. And now, like, is Naughty Dog even going to release a game this generation? I'm not talking about a remake and a remaster. Are they actually going to release a new product, an actual new game, whether it's Last of Us Part 3 or something brand new this entire gen? I don't know. I mean, because you're talking about, maybe this would have been okay if it was like the 360, PS3, early Xbox One gen, where it's like, oh, we tried and we couldn't do it, but we'll have a game up in a couple years, right? Like, not anymore. New game takes 4, 5, 6 years. So, you know, it's just basically just a just RIP Naughty Dog for the entire PS5 generation because of mistakes made by management, because they couldn't bite off what they were chewing, and they made the wrong choice.
Increasingly, right? I tell you what I infer from this, man. Increasingly, I think they really just didn't like Jim Ryan strategy.
Mm.
Increasingly, I think like this is a case of like,
so you think Jim Ryan's gone, so now they can be like, we don't want to do this anyways.
yeah, I honestly think that's part of it. I think it's kind of like, you know, the powers that be, they looked at the whole strategy and what Jim Ryan had everyone doing, you know, the pivot to live service. And we've seen so many publishers over the years try and pivot to live service and just fail, you know, because it's hard. Live service is not easy.
Very difficult.
You know? It's very difficult. And we've seen, like, you know, your Anthem, EA did it to BioWare, gutted BioWare to try and make BioWare into a live service game studio when they weren't set up for it. And I think it's absolutely a mistake, personally, to take Naughty Dog away from what they do best, which is undoubtedly a single player action game. But at the same time, I think like Jim Ryan, probably others, were, you know, potentially kind of panicking in the face of what we were talking about earlier, where more and more people, both the young and the old, the young especially, they just want those kind of live game service experiences. So they're kind of like, oh man, we need to have live service. We need to have everyone in the whole company pivot across to live service as soon as possible. Every company needs its Fortnite to subsidize the other bits that we do. Every game now has to be like Grand Theft Auto, where it's like, yeah, you got your Grand Theft Auto campaign, which people play and, you know, gets all the accolades and gets everyone excited and hyped to experience a new Grand Theft Auto and really set the context for that world. But really, it's about the online. The online just makes insane amount of money and insane margins. And Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox all want a piece of that in varying degrees. Xbox is probably ahead in that space, especially now they've got Activision Blizzard.
Oh, they're way ahead. I mean, Sony's only taking the 30%. Yeah, they're only taking the 30% from games like Fortnite or whatever. But now, Xbox bought ABK, which has, you know, Call of Duty and Diablo and World of Warcraft and Overwatch, and they have these already established live service stuff that they're going to be making money on until however long. Yeah. I look at this more as like, all right, I think they realized that there is. I think what happened is like, okay, you build this huge project, right, and you make this multiplayer thing, and you want to be successful. And like a Naughty Dog game is normally successful. It's usually a single player game that comes out, sells to the same amount of people, but those, you know, it's a high amount of people, right? The Uncharted games, the Last of Us games. But you can always count on that game being a success, right? Whereas this Last of Us one was like, all right, we need this revenue, and it's like, but to do this, to actually make a Last of Us multiplayer a success, you do have to support it. You have to support it with content. And I think that was one of the things they probably didn't want to do because they still have aspirations to do other things, right?
Yeah.
I get, so like what they said in there is true. It was like, well, it was either we become a live service studio or we go back to making single player games. That's probably true on the face value of it, but I think that's like an oversimplification of what actually happened. Whereas, you know what? I don't think Last of Us Factions was a guaranteed success at all, period. Right?
No.
Where you could put it out and people might play it for a month and then everybody stops playing it and it becomes a complete disaster. And then you have people writing articles like, Last of Us Factions has lost 95% of its audience on Steam. Holy shit, right? And now you spent all this time and money on a product that just, not saying it wasn't good, but wasn't a success. And how much that would really hurt the Naughty Dog mystique of just putting out these 90-plus experiences, right? You essentially put out a failure. And because of Sony's push to live service, and we talked about this at length, it's like, I don't know if that's going to pan out. Those games, you can't just set people to work and work on this and expect success. And even though Naughty Dog's one of the better developers out there, there's no what's
evidence?
It's not. It's like there's no automatic like win button that you can hit. Like, boom, this we put it out. We're Naughty Dog. This is an automatic win. Last of Us Factions is essentially going to be our Fortnite, right?
That's literally the same thing that happened with Anthem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like everyone was like, Anthem was like, they called it the Destiny killer. They literally called it that. It's BioWare. BioWare magic. Not everything BioWare does is flawless and perfect. And this is going to be Destiny with BioWare's, storytelling chops. And I want to say they're just coming from Mass Effect Andromeda, which again was their third team, but it sort of damaged the mystique of BioWare. And then we launched straight into Anthem, which I would argue has killed BioWare's mystique dead. So like all it takes is like one or two failures to completely kill.
And now more. So there's no guarantee that Last of Us Factions would have been a success. In fact, you could make the argument that it maybe was set up for failure, right? Being exclusive to one platform, maybe not being on PC, against all these other huge live service games that already have their audience. Like, Last of Us Factions would have have been way better than anything else to get people to switch. And that's the problem with Sony's whole live service setup is you can have fair games coming out in Concord or whatever, and you're hoping that you're going to bring in all this extra revenue, and you're investing like, we need this. But it's like, are you actually going to be successful with it? Now, Marathon might be successful with Bungie, but then you look at what's happening with Destiny 2, and you're like, I don't know, because they're not meeting their revenue targets, and they might have some issues. And
I think the issue with a lot of this stuff, it requires a ton of investment to spin up, right? Mm-hmm. And I think like whereas Microsoft was willing to take that early access hit on Sea of Thieves, on Grounded, and all that kind of stuff. Like Sea of Thieves was basically an early access game when it launched. And I remember saying to a Microsoft exec at the time, I was like, why didn't you just say this was a game preview title? And they're like, oh, the media would... They literally said to me, the media would slam us for daring to release a game in early access when we're Microsoft. And maybe they're right, you know.
Yeah.
But that's basically what they did. And now look at Sea of Thieves. Like, they're stuck with it.
They did launch Grounded in early access, and the media didn't slam.
Yeah, they did.
That. But that's maybe because it was 10
after,
people, right? It was like 10 people that made it, not the whole studio of Rare. So I think what happened here was like Jim Ryan's on the outs, and there seems to be an internal restructuring of whatever their plans are. And I feel like they knew this game wasn't set up for automatic success like their previous stuff. And they didn't want to pigeonhole the whole studio behind a project that could be a failure. So they just cut bait and ran and went back to what has made Naughty Dog successful, which is single player.
But I kind of feel like with these kind of games, you have to be able to stomach the risk, right? Like even Fortnite launched as a really bland game, you know, and they stuck with it and they pivoted really hard. And I don't think Epic had really had like any sort of major success in gaming for a really long time. I remember when Fortnite come out, I remember thinking, oh, why don't they make a new Unreal Tournament? That'd be way cooler than this, you know. And now look at Fortnite. It's Fortnite. It's ubiquitous. It's massive, and it's becoming a platform, you know, like Roblox and all that kind of stuff. And but they launched in this weird state, you know, where it was like bare bones. It was like half a game. It was half Save the World PvE and then half a PUBG ripoff, basically. But they pivoted aggressively hard, and now they're laughing because they stuck with it. You know, I think Sony has to be willing to take a risk on a 6 out of 10 potentially to get one of these service games to grow, you know. And Sea of Thieves is a perfect example of this. You launch a game at 6 out of 10, everyone's mad at it, but you stick with it. You grow it. If you've got if the underlying gameplay loop works, you can grow it and grow it. And I kind of feel like there was something fundamentally terrible about Last of Us Factions, or Sony just doesn't have the balls to stick with a 6 out of 10 game to make it into something special. Like No Man's Sky, Sea of Thieves, all these other service games which started off bad but became incredible, you know. And I think Sony needs to shed its risk aversion if it ever wants to succeed in service games, you know. Especially if that, because clearly by the sounds of it, like they're calling it Last of Us Online. Clearly, they were looking at Grand Theft Auto Online as a sort of allegory for what Last of Us Factions could be, or Last of Us Online, or whatever they wanted to call it. You know, a game where people would basically persist in this world and essentially role play an entity that lives in that situation, which is kind of what GTA offers in a way. And I kind of feel like to achieve what GTA Online has and sort of try and catch up with that, you need a ton of investment. And that sort of starts coming back to PlayStation's supposed cash flow issues and their margin issues and stuff like that. Do they even have the money to invest to create those kind of experiences? I personally think like they should have stuck with it. I think they should have like maybe looked for outside investment somehow and build it as like, look, we can make this into a GTA thing like eventually someday.
I mean,
but
you even look at it like they said, oh, we either become a live service studio or we do single player. But then like Respawn's out here doing Apex Legends and releasing 2 Star Wars single player games.
And then you got Rockstar as well. They're doing
Rockstar,
online and
now granted,
campaign in the sandbox.
Granted, I know that Respawn built a new studio this year that was strictly going to be Apex Legends, and it's like, but that's the thing, it's like they already had the successful games as a service, so they can invest. And that's the problem with Last of Us Factions is there's no guarantee of success. So and so like Sony could look at it and be like, well, we could hire more people, we could build a new studio, and could build a studio that would work on Last of Us Online, and then the other people at Naughty Dog can work on single player. But what happens if it's not a success and you built that new studio and you hired all those people and you just got to close it because it didn't pan out, because the live service market is filled with failures, filled with games that tried and couldn't pry anybody away from the current establishment. Now you would think Last of Us with its brand name would be one of the ones that is geared towards success, but I don't know. I don't know if it would have been. I don't know. Would you have to release this as free to play? Would you charge $70 for it? Are you doing day one on PC? Like, those are questions you have to ask. And it's like any one of those could really hamper that game. But it's just funny to see, you know, people rally and being like, yeah, we're totally happy this game was canceled and you wasted all this years of time. We just give us our single player. See you in 2029. And I also don't like the idea of like, why does everything have to be a live service? Why couldn't you just release this as just a mode? Like nobody was asking for you to turn it into a live service game. All they wanted was just a mode on Last of Us so they could play factions. You turned it into a live service. You made that decision, and now you're basically falling back on it. So like you broke your promise to Last of Us fans, you promised the game, and then you didn't deliver. It's like, but no, it's like, why does everything have to be a live service? And I get why, like, because it's not going to make any money, so what's the point? And it just kind of just really, to me, like, Scalebound's trending now, which is funny because Xbox got destroyed for canceling Scalebound. And here's Sony canceling a game, and everybody's like, yay, actually, this is genius, right? Because it's, hey, we're doing single player instead, and that's what you care about, right? It's like, yeah, that's me. I care about single player. I don't care about multiplayer, so this is actually good. I'm not sure I've ever seen a reaction to a cancellation of a game to be this positive ever. It's usually quite negative, and most games are canceled without ever being announced. But, you know, leave it to Sony's PR people and the Naughty Dog people for presenting this A-B binary choice of one or the other. And it's like dirty live service or prestigious single-player games. It's like, yeah, what are people going to say? Like, I would rather have Naughty Dog make single-player stuff. I don't care about their multiplayer, you know? But I'm just looking at them like, man, if this was Xbox, if, like, it came out, it was like, Halo's and then, like, oh, we're going to cancel this Halo thing, and I'd be like, yo, what the fuck? Like, what? Like, what about all the wasted time and money, and, like, what are all these other things you could have done, you know? Like, even remember when they basically canceled the campaign of Halo Infinite, the DLC, because of the layoffs and stuff? Nobody was giving them any sort of understanding to that. It was like, how could you? Even though the multiplayer's gotten better, right? It's gotten a lot better this year, and they focused on that, and they was like, well, we're just not going to focus on campaign. The reactions to it are the reactions to both are pretty stark, and they're pretty different.
So, if I get this right, Rand, are you saying that it's the Xbox tax?
No, I'm not saying it's the Xbox tax. I'm saying that there's sometimes, people's preferences get in the way of how they feel about something, right? Whereas, and kudos to Sony for crafting a great PR message here where people had to pick their side about what you actually want. And it's like, yeah, this is better. It's funny to see. And I didn't even really I didn't care an iota about factions. My buddies did, but I didn't. And even when I saw this, I was like, damn. And I just man, Xbox's strategy is way better. They got ABK that fills in all the gaps of the live service stuff that Sony's trying to build out, that Sony's trying to invest all this money into things that there is no guarantee of success, period. They could be setting all that money and burning it for you know what I mean? They're investing all this money in live service, and all that could just be completely wasted because they're looking at all this. And I ask you this question. If the live service stuff doesn't pan out for PlayStation, that was expected how they were going to grow and grow their revenue streams. What the fuck are they going to do instead? Where's their pivot? Because if now you're planning on all this live service stuff and you're going to be getting all this revenue from all these live service experiences, but now you're delaying 6 of them and your biggest one just got canceled potentially, where are you going to make up that revenue at? I mean, you just raised the console price, so you can't do that again. You just raised game prices, so you can't do that again. Where is Sony going to get that money to help offset their margins and everything? Where do they go? Where do they go here? Especially when you have Microsoft taking all the Call of Duty money, all the money on Call of Duty Mobile, all the Diablo and Overwatch stuff to help fund all this other stuff on Xbox to put in the game. Do they have to consider day one on PC now? Or they'd be like, well, you know what? If we were getting all that money from live service, that could allow us to essentially keep our prestigious single player games to the PS5 only, and bring them to PC later. But now, if we don't actually have that, and we're actually trying to grow our revenue, do we have to pivot to day one PC releases now to actually make up that revenue that we're missing out on? And this is the sort of things you have to think of. I don't know. I mean, is that something that they would have to think about?
Maybe. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was you who said that one day you expect Sony to do day one PC.
Absolutely. Yes. One day Sony will do day one PC release. I mean, they were already setting the groundwork of doing it with these live service games. But with everything, and it's now if the live service push is stalled or lessened, or
and you projected to have that revenue,
and you're thinking hey, we're going to investors and be like, we got to show growth and we got to have all this revenue streams and stuff, and it's but you're missing out on that. Were they so overconfident in that? Hey, we're Sony and we can do anything, that we could just invest in 12 live service games and all these are going to be a success, that now the cold reality is slapping you in the face, and that there are severe problems with the future planning of PlayStation, to one where Jim Ryan's basically piecing out before any of his decisions ever come to fruition, right? He's the architect of the live service plan. He was the opponent to the ABK deal, and he's piecing out before Microsoft fully owns and transitions ABK into an Xbox thing, before putting their stuff on Game Pass, before they get the marketing, and he's piecing out before any of their live service stuff ever hits. He's like, deuces, out of here, right? And you have all the other stuff, like Connie Booth leaving, they're shutting down studios, they're canceling games. Everyone always thinks well, PlayStation, they know what they're doing, because look at all the money they're making, their consoles are selling. But you look at some of the stuff going on, it's is Rome on fire? Do they have a significant problem? Is their strategy not as foolproof as everybody expects? I don't know, Jez. I mean, I don't know.
Gaming is hard. I mean, we've seen every company struggle. Nintendo had the Wii U, Xbox had the Xbox One. And Xbox has basically had to pivot its entire strategy over to something else because they couldn't become PlayStation. But like some of these, when you look outside of the game journalism bubble, you'll see like analysts at like Financial Times and some like Business Insider and stuff like that. They'll talk about how like Xbox is set up for long-term success with highly diversified content streams and all this kind of stuff. And they'll talk about how like that's the strategy that's going to win in the future. And consoles just isn't a grow. We keep hearing this, that consoles aren't growing, that kids don't want consoles, and adults are too tired to play consoles, and console was down this year and all this kind of stuff. PC's the growth platform right now, and even mobile shrunk. Like mobile's still the biggest by far, but mobile shrunk by 2%, I think, the last figure that I read. And then PC had grown, because you can't beat Gabe Newell, and Gaben's like Steam platform is just too powerful, But I think Sony will find their feet, and it's not like it's all doom and gloom for Sony. They're still the industry leader, in console, and they've still got all this fantastic IP, these fantastic studios, and I think some of it's inflation and just the way the general economy is. Cost of living's gone up, which means people demanding higher salaries, which means the margins have shrunk and people are spending less money. So every business is having this sort of upheaval and this struggle right now. The next year could be a continuation of that, and some of it's like the war, some of it's the other war, and some of it's the the post-pandemic disruption to supply chains and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of annoying that like the bigger companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, they can weather the storm a little bit better than some of the smaller companies, like a Sony. And we often forget this. Like Sony's like the dominant company in specific markets, but Microsoft's Microsoft. It's a huge company that can sort of absorb these kind of macroeconomic factors in a way that maybe some other companies can't. But we've seen Nintendo come back from absolutely dire straits, and we've seen Microsoft come back from the Red Ring of Death, and we've seen Sony come back from the PS3. So even though this might be a blip right now for PlayStation, I think PlayStation will be fine, and I think they'll find their service games, and they will get their Fortnite, and I think they will really like nail what they're trying to go for. But I think like now is probably just the wrong time for them or whatever, and they're reorganizing the company to get it in a healthier place for investing in something like a GTA Online competitor. Will eventually come down the pipeline, but I do think if they are like in a position where they have to replace expected revenue from some of these service games, they probably will have to start thinking about putting their games day and date on Steam and PC, and competing with the Microsoft in that avenue, because Microsoft's like, they're like, yeah, our console install base isn't shrinking, exactly. Yeah, we're not winning the NPD awards, sure, but our console base isn't shrinking, which means Xbox One owners are still, playing Minecraft on their Xbox One, and we're happy with that because the margins are good, and stuff like that, and they're not going anywhere in console. Meanwhile, they're cleaning up house on PC and they're cleaning up house on mobile with ABK and stuff like that. So, and Sony's just sort of sitting there like leaving revenue on the table when they could be also putting their games on the Steam Deck. They could be, they could do a special deal with Valve or something where Valve like, well, I suppose Valve would be like, yeah, we don't even need to take that deal. You will treat you like any other publisher, But like they could sort of take PC a little bit more seriously, you know. And I also think this VR thing that is a total distraction for Sony. I think that's a complete distraction, and I don't think that's ever going to be a thing, personally.
No.
I don't care if one game got a good review in IGN. That's not enough to. That's not enough to make a console.
But that's on Meta. That's not on PlayStation. I don't think
It's not even on.
I don't think that game's even on PSVR 2. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I mean,
even less
see, you're a little bit more. You're a little bit more positive on it. I don't think Sony ever finds their Fortnite. Because I don't think you could just be like, hey, we're just going to throw stuff at the wall and we're going to make the next Fortnite. I think Marathon will do fine. And, you know, it'll make money for Sony, but I don't even know if that'll be on the level of Destiny, of the money Destiny was bringing in. Because Extraction
What about Foam Stars, bro?
Yeah, well, Foam Stars is Square Enix's game. So...
Isn't it, like, exclusive, though, permanently?
I don't know if it's exclusive permanently, but it is Square Enix's game. So even if it was successful, it's going to be Square Enix, you know, making the majority of the money on that. I don't know. As part of it seems to be like when they came up with this plan, they just thought like, no, we're going to do anything. We're Sony. Let's put it on it. And then like
Sony's back.
I mean, I think so. Part of it is because I don't think they're like, oh, Xbox, they're not selling consoles. We can do what we'll raise the prices. And I think this is kind of a thing where it's like, oh shit's not looking so good, like, you know. But we'll see it plays out. The problem, I think, some of the least people that like I've seen are just like, yo, look, I'm just thinking of the wasted time and money on this, because now you look at like the next game, and it's like the next game's probably 5 years from now, so you're looking at the next Naughty Dog game in 2028. So it's just basically a wasted whole generation chasing after, you know, the dragon, so to speak, chasing after that mythical live service money, right?
It happens. And I think like you have to take these risks if you want to make live service. I think they should have stuck with it.
Well, it sounds like they may not stick with it at all. Sounds like they may just cut bait on it. And like they said, they had 12 games and now they delayed 6 of them. So they may just completely just shift course. Maybe they're not cut off for that life. I don't know. I don't know, Jez.
You have to be, man. You have to be in this. It depends who they want to be, you know. Do they want to be more like Nintendo, or do they want to be more like Tencent? You know,
I think they absolutely want their first party to be Nintendo, but it never will be. Like they'll never get on the level of Nintendo games. Like nothing that Sony puts out ever will be on the level of what Zelda sells, or what Pokemon does, or what Animal Crossing does, or what Mario Kart does. It's not going to happen. You know, you have Spider-Man, which is one of the biggest properties in the world, and that only does so much. You know what I mean? Nintendo's just on a different Nintendo's, you know, say what it will. Like, I'll give Nintendo props, you know, when they deserve it, and they deserve it in that thing. Nintendo exclusives are wanted. That's why people buy that system, you know, and it's proven time and time again. I mean, I may not like them, but the rest of the world seems to. And I think Sony as a company wants to be Tencent and make that the revenue, but they want their first party to be viewed as important as Nintendo's are, and that's just not the case. And I don't think it'll ever be the case. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's not very optimistic, Rand.
Well, yeah. Anyways, let's move on to some Patreon questions. We got some to get through. You too can send us some questions on Patreon, patreon.com/XB2. You can get access to our Patreon exclusive show like Xbox 2 Ultimate, or Xbox The Guest Show, Xbox 2+1, where we just interviewed Gene Park this past week. You can hear him talk about the Xbox tax and how Xbox has a better future than PlayStation. And enjoy that. I think it was like 2 hours. We have super chat here from Silas. Says, who do you guys think are the least leaky devs out there? I'd say Nintendo and Valve. How could nobody know about the Deck OLED? I mean, Nintendo definitely has their ninjas.
Yeah, I think like Valve's quite good, and I think what serves Valve is they're quite a small, nimble, flat organization compared to the sort of the heavy bureaucracy of Microsoft. So like while it might be difficult sometimes for Valve to collaborate and make the third game in a franchise ever. They're kind of, when they do come together, boy, they seriously come together. And the OLED's a pretty impressive system. I bought one for a Christmas present for a family member this Christmas. The Steam Deck is a great system, really, really great system. But who's the least leaky dev? And Nintendo's like, it's weird with Nintendo because sometimes things do leak from Nintendo, but they do a lot of stuff in house, and like I think they're kind of feared a little bit like Disney. Whereas Microsoft will use a lot of externals that work a lot with third parties and contractors, which is where a lot of Microsoft stuff was leaked in the past. But I think Microsoft has improved a lot recently with regards to leaks. At least I found it a lot more difficult to get stuff out of Microsoft more recently. But I've never had leaks from Bethesda ever. I'm not aware of stuff leaking, but it's funny because Bethesda stuff only started leaking when they joined Microsoft. And Microsoft's like lackadaisical attitude to data retention sort of bit them during the FTC trial. But that's an interesting question.
Yeah,
I suppose.
So we got a question here from Wolfgang KPZ. He says, so Jordan Peele was on stage at the Game Awards with Kojima. Kojima mentioned his Avengers team, which I imagine is composed of artists from different mediums. Jordan Peele was definitely on my wish list for a Kojima horror game. I think Ghost and the Shell director Oshi Mamuro might be there too. Do you guys have some artists such as book writers, movie directors, or magicians that you'd like to see on the list? And P.S. Jez, how do you feel about the apparent Silent Hill teasers at the TGAs?
Well, I thought they were hilarious for one thing. Like, Kojima's this massive troll.
Mm-hmm.
And Gene Park actually told us a story on Xbox 2+1 where I can't remember exactly what Gene said, but he said he asked Kojima like in an interview at some point, like, why do you do it this way? Or why do you market things this way? And then Kojima replied something like, it's entertainment, right?
It's entertainment, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of perfect that Kojima, like right from the marketing get-go, Kojima's building a game. The intrigue, the expectations. I remember not knowing what Death Stranding was right up until playing it, But still, there's something about it that's captivating, Even when you play it, like, it's just captivating, even though like I haven't finished it yet.
I don't know about like musicians. I would like Trent Reznor to come in there to do some soundtrack work. He's always really good at that. I mean, book writers, I don't know. Like, Brandon Sanderson, maybe like somebody like Joe Abercrombie, maybe get some grimdark stuff in there. Movie directors, Guillermo del Toro, probably one. I think he'd work with Kojima. Yeah, he's worked with Kojima, and I think he's worked with him again. Isn't he? Yeah, he is.
I think like one artist I'd love to see him work with, and I think was actually slated for PT, was Junji Ito. If I remember correctly. Junji Ito is like a manga artist who does this really notoriously creepy stuff, and I believe he was working on Silent Hills. He's ideal really for that kind of game. So I would hope that Kojima's gonna hit him up again. As for directors and stuff, who did the Midsommar movie? I can't remember.
It's the same person that did Hereditary, but I'm not.
Yeah, Hereditary, Midsommar. I can't remember who that was, but man, those movies were Hereditary as well. So freaky,
very freaky,
freaky as hell. Like just so strange, uncanny. I tell you who I'd really love him to work with, who I doubt would ever happen in a million years, but David Lynch. Because I really think Kojima is inspired a bit by David Lynch, and Remedy definitely is. Remedy really wears that on their sleeve. It's like all their games have like some kind of Twin Peaks kind of aspect to them, kind of. But nobody does the Nightmarescape as well as David Lynch. Nobody. Like he's a visionary, and I think that'd be really intriguing if David Lynch would work on a video game. David Lynch also works with Trent Reznor a lot, which is weird.
No, that'd be good. I like that. We have CJ who asks, "Hey gents, so I turned 30 tomorrow, Saturday. Well, happy birthday. And I was wondering if you guys had any advice. I know Rand isn't close to his 30s just yet, but thought Jez might have some advice. Have a great weekend, guys.
Advice for being 30?
I mean, 30s aren't that different than your 20s. It's the 40s you got to start. 40s is when your body starts breaking down, when you start waking up with these creaks and stuff that you weren't getting. So, I don't know. I mean, 30s, I don't really have any advice for the 30s, to be honest with you.
I kind of like, I feel like my 30s were a bit more how I wished my 20s had gone. I kind of felt like my teenage years were my 20s, where I was just chaotic and did whatever and had no idea what I was doing. And I really sort of started being a little bit more focused about everything when I was in my 30s. So I would say, like, life really does feel like it begins at 30. You know, there's a whole meme, right? But advice, I don't know. Just 30 was also like when I started to realize that things that I'd kind of used to overthink in my 20s, and you just kind of realize that no one actually really cares about any of that stuff.
Right.
But as for advice, I have no idea. Just take it easy.
Yeah.
Rock and roll, baby.
Enjoy your 30s.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. Sonic SVT Focus says, in a previous episode, I remember Rand saying he had finished close to 50 games this year. I know Alan Wake 2 is the number one game of the year, but I'd love to hear a countdown of all of his completed games from worst to best of the year. Jez, you can do one as well. A 90-second segment of completed games this year would be a nice warm-up to Rand's list. Oh, man. Well, I mean, you have to go. I'd have to look, but I mean, I can give you sort of a rundown what would be my top 10, really. It'd be like Alan Wake 2, Starfield, Hi-Fi Rush. Now, this is in no particular order, really. So, Alan Wake 2, Starfield, Hi-Fi Rush, Resident Evil 4, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Cocoon, Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy 16 would be in there. I'd have to look at all my games played. And list all 50 of them in order of descending and ascending, or how good they were. That's a pretty tough task. But all I have is like
that'd be hard.
Yeah,
that'd
Alan
be
Wake 2 is
like
number one, and maybe later, maybe like in a couple weeks, maybe next week or whatever, we'll do top 10 games or whatever. But I don't really go behind that because when you get to the bottom of the list, it's like, I don't know. Maybe I will do it. Maybe we'll do an Xbox 2 Ultimate, and I'll do something like that. Maybe we'll do like an off the cuff Xbox 2 Ultimate next week or something for a little bit or something. And I'll do a list.
The Christmas episode.
Yeah. Well, Christmas isn't next week, but yeah. James Wiseau says it's Christmas time. Hope you guys get some lovely time off to spend with the families and various loved ones, but also as it's a bit of a dry period for release, a time to clear some backlog titles. What's the first games on each of your backlogs to clear? Well, I am going to be starting Cyberpunk really, really soon. Probably next week. I'm currently in the middle of a book I'm really enjoying, so I want to finish that. But it's Cyberpunk, baby, and I cannot wait to play it. I am really, really excited to play through the main game for the first time and the DLC. And I think I'm really going to like it, but I'm really excited to actually sit down and play Cyberpunk. I do have Baldur's Gate 3, and I have decided I'm going to try it at some point, so probably next year. But it's what about you, Jez? What's the first game like?
Well, I'm trying to finish the Diablo season 2. Right?
Okay,
it's a huge grind. It's an absolutely massive grind. I kind of feel like to complete a season journey, because you have to do all these challenges, and some of them are like level 5 glyphs to level 21, and it's like takes ages. And it's like I'm at the last bit now, and this is like I've come this far. I need to finish the grind, even though like the only reward you get at this point is like a title or something. But it's like I've come this far. I've got to finish it off. So I don't know. As for backlog, maybe I'll like sneak in and finish Persona right before the end of the year to prove Rand wrong. I mean, I could. I've got like 2 weeks to do it, potentially. But there's a bunch of games I wanna get back to, like Alan Wake's being one of them. I actually never finished Baldur's Gate either. I got to the last act, but never got around to finishing it. So maybe finish off my Baldur's Gate playthrough. Although I'm kind of tempted to start over again because of how many it's really annoying when I play these kind of games, like where you can make decisions. I discover things like online, like, oh, I could have done it that way, and then I think, oh man, I kind of want to do it that way as well. Shall I start over a whole new save just to change that one decision? But I'm gonna try and finish that, and also I really want to play like Sea of Stars and some of those other games that I missed out on this year, like some of the smaller games. What was it?
Okay, we have a question here from Silas. He says, "Greetings, gents. I'm Team Green in both console and PC. To me, NVIDIA has far superior tech than AMD, like ray tracing and upscaling. I mean, look at what the Tegra mobile chip from 2013 has performed on the Switch. I was curious why AMD is such a stranglehold on powering consoles and handheld PCs. Is NVIDIA not interested in the console space? If they are making a custom system on a chip for the Super Switch, I think gamers are in for a treat."
It's pure price, I think. It's pure cost. Like AMD stuff's cheaper, I think, for Microsoft and PlayStation to leverage. I think that's really what it is that it's cheaper at scale, I suppose. But that's it. It just literally boils down to that, I think.
It just boils down to money and expenses and everything.
Yeah, I think so. And I suppose like now, like they've been on that architecture for so long.
Isn't NVIDIA's like stock the highest it's ever been, or their like revenue the highest it's ever been, or something?
Yeah, Nvidia is insane. Like if you're Nvidia investors are eating good right now. And that's not because of gaming; it's because of AI servers.
They don't need the consoles essentially.
No, they don't. I can't remember what their server chip's called, but they've designed a server chip. I think it's called the A100, if I remember correctly. That is designed specifically for artificial intelligence, and everyone wants it. America wants it. China wants it. Everyone wants it all over the world, 24/7. I think Meta and Microsoft just invested like billions in getting these chips, or first dibs. Meta and Microsoft. So yeah, all the big companies want Nvidia's stuff for servers, and I suppose like AMD is like. The console market's small fry for Nvidia, so I don't think they just don't care. They don't need to care. They've got a de facto monopoly on AI servers and cloud stuff right now, and machine learning. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But Intel's coming from apparently, and Microsoft also apparently wants to make its own chips for servers, so they don't have to pay Nvidia's fees. Like we will be interesting to see if Microsoft can pull that off, because people don't realize how hard it is to make chips. There's only a few companies around the world that can really do it, and that's why like it's so difficult. The demand is so high, but the amount of companies out there that can actually do this stuff is so low, and that's why like Biden, they did the CHIPS Act, for example, to try and like invest in improving the supply chain for building fabricators and stuff like that, because it was a niche thing, but now it's like, oh, everyone actually wants to do this. But the level of cleanliness you need to make this stuff, and the kind of the laboratories you need, is like, it's on another level. Like you don't appreciate how complicated some of this stuff is. That's why like only a few countries can do it, let alone companies. So yeah, it's interesting. Chip stuff is really interesting, and it's fun to research if you check on YouTube and see like how they make all this stuff. It's really cool.
We have one here from good old Collinwood, who says, "Rand, Jez, Xbox 2 audience, lend me your ears. I come to bury E3, not to praise it. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones, so let it be with E3. If someone decided to make an E3 replacement, what would entice you to go? Maybe." Yeah, so E3 is dead. We didn't really talk about it on the show because we've been talking. We basically said it has been dead ever since, like, this. It's just a walking corpse. It was like, whatever.
It's a zombie. That was Shakespeare.
Was it Shakespeare? Okay. Yeah, lend me your ears. So, yeah. If someone decided to make an E3 replacement, what would entice you to go? I mean, there already is one. Jeff. He's got Summer Games Fest. It is the E3 replacement. I can't imagine.
Whenever you say Jeff, I think Jeff Grubb. And I was like, oh my God, Jeff Grubb made an E3 replacement?
I just don't know.
There's only one Jeff to me.
Yeah, that's the Grubster. I guess I should say Keeley. But I don't really see any other
really
company trying to come in and make an E3 replacement. I think it's just going to be Keighley. And would I like to go? Maybe, but I ain't part of the Cool Kids Club. And I doubt I'll ever get to sit at the Cool Kids Club in that clique, which you sort of need to be.
Yeah.
But
See, that's the issue with Jeff Keighley controlling these shows. You have to be in a clique to get in. You know, it's not just like anyone who gets in. It's like
it's not like E3 where you could
cool.
be like, hey, I have this reach, and you could apply and get in based on, you know, merits of your website or your channel or your platform. And maybe part of it's because I've been to E3. I got to experience it once, and I'm like, that's all I needed was just that one time. So yeah, no, there's not really. I mean, if I ever got to the point where maybe I was part of the Cool Kids Club and I got an invitation to go, maybe I would go. But it's not something that is immediate. Like, that's not something that was on my bucket list where it was like, man, I really want to go to E3. I'm not like out here being like, man, I really want to go to Summer Games Fest. They're not even comparable, you know?
Yeah, and for me in Europe, there's Gamescom, and Gamescom was always bigger than E3. There was always more stuff, more publishers, more interviews, more opportunities. Gamescom, like E3, like always got all the press for some reason, but Gamescom has always been bigger. It's so big. There's so much there, so many halls, like stuff for fans, stuff for press, so many opportunities and so many interviews, and all the devs are all there together. And it's not like EA's in a separate building or whatever. Everyone's at Gamescom, and I don't know if it's because Gamescom didn't charge such exorbitant fees to companies to join there, but like already this past year, like Gamescom was almost back to where it was before the pandemic, and I think this coming year it'll just be completely back to normal. So, come to Gamescom if you can, hop on a flight to Cologne. It's awesome.
We have Sick and Tired saying, what year do you see the following Xbox first-party games releasing? Okay, he's got 9 here, so we'll go real fast. Okay, Jez? Ready?
Okay.
Fable, 2025.
2025, yep.
South of Midnight, 2024.
24.
Clockwork Revolution, 2025.
I'm going to say 26 for that one.
26 for that one. Okay. State of Decay 3, 2027.
I'm going to say 25 for that one.
Okay. Gear 6.
I'm going to say 25 for that one.
I'm going to say 26 for that one. Perfect Dark. I'm going to say 26.
I'm going to say 25 for that one.
Forza Horizon 6. I'm going to say 25.
Yeah, I'm going to say 25 for that one.
Indiana Jones. I'm going to say 25.
I'm going to say 26 for that one.
Okay. Outer Worlds 2. I'm going to say...
I'm going to say 27
26 for that one. Outer Worlds 2. Some of these might be launch titles for the next gen Xbox.
Maybe.
Possibly. Nate Miller says, would you rather pick any Xbox exclusive upcoming and play it today, but the rest of the Xbox games the year comes out you cannot play, or play all the exclusives that year except the one you chose?
I just play the one I chose because I play World of Warcraft for all the other time.
Yeah, I'd probably play the one I would chose. So if it was like, hey, if I could play Hellblade 2 this year or, right now, but not play any other games in 2024, I'd probably be okay. I'd be like, all right, fine. Yeah, I don't care about Flight Sim. You know what I mean? So I don't care about Flight Sim? Damn. No, I don't care about no Flight Sim. I don't care about no R history on board, So I would choose that. Omen says, does Xbox ever intend to add Elder Scrolls Online to the Microsoft Store? They managed to put it on both Steam and the Epic Store, but for some reason has yet to be on the Microsoft Store. For context, Elder Scrolls Online is on console Game Pass, just not PC Game Pass.
I think it's something to do with the business model of the game. I think, this is why, when people say, World of Warcraft's going to be in Game Pass, I often just say, I don't think so. Because the business model of that game is that you get people in and then you get them to subscribe. And I know that Elder Scrolls Online, you can play it without a subscription, but really they want you to subscribe, right? Whereas World of Warcraft, you can't even play it without a subscription. And that's the whole business model of that game. They have a specific cash flow expectation generated by the expectation that this many people are going to subscribe at this time, and they can project a lot of that stuff because of how history dictates how people subscribe. They subscribe hard for an expansion launch and maybe drop off a little bit. And like there's like a lot of data you can look at with World of Warcraft, for example, where people have come and gone over the season, and it's weird because this current season for World of Warcraft is doing really, really well compared to the last one. And I think part of that is the season of Discovery that launched, where people are like, checking out both versions of the game or whatever. But yeah, I don't think they want it on PC store because the expectation will be you've got to put it in Game Pass. And I don't think they necessarily want it in Game Pass because they've got a certain business model that maybe precludes it from Game Pass. Because if loads of people start playing through Game Pass and they're not paying directly to the game for it, that potentially sort of detracts from the margins of the game, because the overheads and the server costs and stuff, you kind of want people to be paying directly into the game rather than taking it out of Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they're in Game Pass, maybe they're playing other games as well, and it kind of screws up the business model. So I think that's why like neither ESO or I don't think it matters on console so much because I don't think many people are playing it on console. But I don't think ESO or World of Warcraft will be in Game Pass. But hey, maybe I'll be proven wrong down the line.
Okay. We have Not Skywalker says, "Hey all, I think 2023 is a pretty damn fantastic year for Xbox, from first party to Game Pass to general updates. Quarter one aside from Persona 3 Reloaded on Game Pass doesn't seem to have big news beats aligned quite yet for them. Contrast with Sony, 2 big JRPG third-party exclusives, Grand Blue, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and 3 published games in quarter one. How confident are we that we get a dev direct in quarter one? Which Xbox published games will make quarter one? Ara? Cheers, Aiden."
I think Towerborn's quarter one. I really do. I've heard the game hit a milestone recently, and I don't know what milestone it is, but it sounded like it's coming to the end of them. And I played Ara. Well, I did play Ara, but I played Towerborn at Gamescom, and it was awesome. Felt great to play, a lot of fun. So maybe Towerborn's the quarter one game, but can't be sure. Until we know more. But Towerborn does not compete with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting
Final Fantasy
that
Rebirth is on its own level, but
yeah,
you're just gonna have to wait for developer direct to them to drop the dates and stuff. And I feel pretty good.
That'll be a roadmap.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. Brandon says, "Hey fellas, quick question about Naughty Dog. A lot of people claim that Naughty Dog is the best dev in the world, best game dev in the world, and I was wondering if you guys agreed with that. I'm a huge fan of their work, but I feel like they're a bit one-notish to claim the best dev crown. The fact that they weren't able to launch a non-third-person action-adventure game should be a knock against their reputation, right? Thanks for all you guys do."
The best dev in the world is Blizzard.
Well, you could make argument the best dev in the world is Epic at this point, right?
Can we not do that?
I'm just saying, what constitutes the best dev in the world? Is the dev that brings in the most revenue? Is it the dev that makes the highest rated game? Which if that's the case, is it Larian? Can you be the best dev in the world if you have one of the most public cancellations of a game yet?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Naughty Dog failed with Factions. I mean, I guess if you really love single player cinematic games, then Naughty Dog's probably at the top of that list.
They're the best. They're among the best at what they do in that
Yes.
genre, in that niche. But like, they're not the best to me, and they're probably not the best to other individuals as well. Like, a lot of people in chat are saying Rockstar are the best. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a completely reasonable thing to say. Like, that not only do they make amazing service games, they also make incredible stories. They also make incredible sandboxes, incredible tech, incredible physics. They pretty much hit every metric. So like, if you to ask me overall who's the best dev, even though I'm not the biggest fan of their current games, like, I don't care about GTA Online. I'm more of a fan of Red Dead than GTA, like from a setting perspective, and I also like the old Rockstar that made loads of weird games like Manhunt and
Well,
stuff.
they may not even be the best dev at PlayStation anymore. You got Insomniac and Sony Santa Monica that you could argue are better, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, Insomniac's been putting out way more games.
That's true.
So I mean, they may not even be the best at PlayStation, but yeah, for a certain type of person, Naughty Dog will probably be their favorite. But if you enjoy multiplayer games, then they're not even anywhere on the list, right? So it depends on who you ask and what's your metrics for it. Lee Sanders says, if you had to pick 3 games from this year to buy and complete in the Xbox Xmas break before the Game Awards started hitting in 2 weeks, what would you both pick? If you had to pick 3 games from this year to buy and complete in the Christmas break before the Game Awards started hitting in 2 weeks, what would you both pick?
Interesting question.
I'm kind of confused on what the question even means. What does it mean before the Game Awards started hitting in 2 weeks? I mean, the Game Awards already hit. What? I guess the 3 games that I do want to complete are Cyberpunk, Baldur's Gate 3, and Lies of P, I guess, would be the 3 that I want to complete. And for like Armored Core 6, I guess, because those are some of the games I still want that I didn't beat or didn't play from this year that I still kind of want to play and beat. So those would be the games. Do you have any? I mean, Persona 5?
Persona 5, yeah. Lies of P. I also want to finish that. I only did the first couple of bosses. I was really enjoying it, and it really is my kind of game. And also Baldur's Gate, which I'm still in Act 3, so
right.
Yeah.
Well, I beat Baldur's Gate 3 before Jez. Tune in to find out, because you never know. Because if I do start Baldur's Gate and I like it, I will beat it before him. And that would be very sad.
I doubt it, buddy. I doubt it, bro.
Monkey vs. Tramp says, Jez, Yorkshire puddings with your Christmas dinner? Yes or no? Also, you need to try the brand.
Oh,
no.
I'm gonna trigger every British person in here right now. Since I was little, right, I never liked vegetables as a kid, and I refused to eat them, right, which meant it kind of precluded me from Christmas dinner, because Christmas dinner has vegetables and roast potatoes. I don't eat roast potatoes, don't eat sprouts or stuffing or anything like that, right? I mean, now that I'm older, I can eat it. I still don't like roast potatoes very much, but I will eat it, if I have to. But since I was a kid, the Christmas tradition in my household, because neither me and my brother would eat vegetables, was mac and cheese. So I have my mom makes Christmas dinner for herself and the rest of my family. And my brother likes Christmas dinner as well now, but I have mac and cheese for Christmas dinner. That's tradition, bro.
Okay.
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. I like mac and cheese. I really do. I don't even know what Yorkshire pudding is, and I don't even know where I could even get some here. But
Yorkshire pudding's very nice, actually.
Is it?
I cannot describe what it is. There's one. It's like a puff pastry kind of thing. Google it, but I think you'd like it. You eat it with like meat and gravy and stuff. I don't know.
We have Achievement. He says, with Xbox seemingly open to Marvel properties, if they were to acquire Crystal and Eidos, who have worked on Marvel heroes before, which Marvel properties should they conquer next?
That's interesting. I think like the one thing about Blade is like it's big, but it's not a Spider-Man kind of big, right? I think like I would kind of love to see a high-end Deadpool game.
Okay, I like that. I would like a Deadpool game.
But you'd really need a studio that kind of got the humor. I'm not sure if that's a good one for Eidos or whatever to do. I tell you who probably would make a good Deadpool game.
Who?
If Clockwork Revolution hits.
Ooh, in Exile. Yeah. Well, the humor.
In Exile has the humor, man.
I would say you're wrong about Eidos, because Guardians of the Galaxy was quite funny.
Oh, yeah. I've never played it, so don't know.
Maybe
Maybe Eidos makes a Deadpool game. Deadpool's one of the only superheroes that I actually enjoy because he takes the piss.
If they wanted to even work on a Marvel property again, they may not. They may not want to. I mean, you were assuming
I think they're pretty proud of.
I think they were pretty proud of Guardians of the Galaxy for sure. But first things first, achievement. The Xbox has to acquire Crystal and Eidos. And while we think that's possible, I don't know. I mean, they just laid off more people at 3D Realms and whatever other studio, and they shut down Free Realm or Free studio that did Time Splitters.
Free Radical. I mean, is Microsoft gonna step in and get Crystal and Eidos? Maybe Embracer doesn't have any plans to get rid of Crystal and Eidos. Maybe they're perfect. Maybe Xbox is perfectly. Maybe they're scared of the FTC, bro.
Maybe they're perfect. Maybe Microsoft is perfectly okay with essentially having contracts with both of those to work on games, and Embracer is perfectly fine owning them and not having to fund any of their titles. And just like Crystal Dynamics is working on Perfect Dark and Tomb Raider, and I would imagine Embracer's not giving them any money to do that because it's being funded by Amazon and Xbox. So maybe Embracer's like, we're perfectly fine owning these studios that we don't have to fund because other people will fund them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to see Xbox buy them because you never know. Embracer might just be like, you know what, we're shutting these down.
And Embracer idiots. Doesn't help.
Yes, they are. We have SJ Dub. Hey, gents, question for the both of you. No spoilers, but how scary is Alan Wake 2? It's currently on sale on Xbox, and I'm interested in playing it from all the amazing things I've heard about it. But I'm not a big fan of horror in any media form. Hope you both have a great day. I think it's like $25 on Epic. Yeah, it's like half price on Epic, I think. You said I don't think it's sold well. I don't think it's sold well.
That is wild,
how scary is Alan Wake 2? It depends. If you're not really used to that style of gameplay, like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 2, where it's limited supplies and you're fighting enemies that can potentially come out and scare you, it can be it can put you on edge because you're always kind of looking for, like, oh, I only got 5 bullets, you know. Yeah. It depends. Like at best, it depends on how scary you're talking. Like, is it scary like a horror film? No, but is it scary as intense? Where you're trying to like, oh man, I got only 1 health thing and I only got a couple bullets. How am I gonna fight this enemy? Like that sort of. I mean, it depends on how you can get through that. I wouldn't necessarily call it. I don't really think there's really scary games personally. I mean, you might get me a couple times with a jump scare, but I don't know. I don't really think Alan Wake 2 is scary, but I don't really think any game's scary.
It's not scary as like a Silent Hill or an Outlast or something like that, where it's like designed
to get under your skin.
Yeah, like Silent Hill's ambience like is. And I don't know if some of this is sort of nostalgia in a way. Like, I was terrified of Silent Hill when I was a kid. I'd have to, like, play it with some music on or something because the music was so creepy. But Alan Wake 2, like, what I've played of it so far, I don't think it's that scary. It's pretty gruesome. Like, some of the early scenes are pretty, like, gruesome, like, ritualistic stuff and without spoilers and gory.
Very gory.
Much more gory than Alan Wake 1,
mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's scary.
Yeah, I
would say be brave and give it a go.
Be brave, play it. But also, if you haven't played the first one, I would catch up on the story of Alan Wake 1. 09C Mine says, good evening, gentlemen. Not a question per se, but just wanted to say that I agree with your take last week about the lack of Xbox logo on the Blade trailer. I think Bethesda is trying to represent itself, and the Xbox logo will be tagged in later down the line. I presume the same thing will happen with ABK. Although during the Black Friday sales when Diablo 4 was discounted, they had specially made fiery Xbox logo prominently stapled on their trailer at the end. They did do that, yeah. But those are all the questions, Jez, we have from the Patreon peeps. Thank you guys for supporting us throughout the whole year. we have a big 2024 planned. A lot of guests for Xbox 2+1. A lot of content. So hope you guys will stay with us. And obviously, we'll be constantly doing Xbox 2. We'll be having a show next week. Will we have a show the following week? We might take that off. We might not. We might have Xbox 2 Ultimate on Tuesday, just to, the last one before the holidays. So keep your eye out on that. But thank you guys so much for being with us, for letting us start 2 hours later than normal. I had a lot of fun. Jez, we had a lot of fun despite the Discord server outage, right?
Yeah. Stupid Discord.
What
is it like? Stupid Discord.
Yeah. So
we'll be back.
Yeah, do us a favor. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the show. Subscribe if you're new. Notifications, turn them on so you're always notified whenever we go live. Hope you guys enjoy the show. If you're listening to this later, hopefully, leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify if you feel so inclined. That helps out a lot. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. We'll see you maybe on Tuesday, and if not, for sure, on Friday. Who knows what's going to happen in the game industry? We didn't even talk about the scam that was going around with the day before, but
yeah,
whatever. Anyways,
it's better committing that to memory.
Yeah. We will see you guys later. Have a good one. Keep it gaming. Later.
Rock and roll, everybody.